And welcome back to Phase 3 of the SMITE Pro League, day number 1, set number 2. And before we jump into that, we want to give a shout out to our good friends over at Alienware for coming back with us now in Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League. If you haven't already gotten your hands on one of these Alienware machines, or if you were kind of on the fence about it, well, hopefully that video did a little convincing. Go over to smitegame.com/Alienware, use code AWSMITE09 to get your discounts and see what other kind of great stuff that Alienware has to offer to you. I think a couple of important points that came from the pros is going from playing at home on the same machine to playing in studio on the same type of machine means that they don't really have to make any kind of differences. They don't have to change up their gear or any. They can just play on that top of the line at any given opportunity, whether they have to play at home for any reason or play here in the studio. So thank you so much to Alienware for coming back in Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League. I'm J-Mac. Joined on the desk with me is going to be Mifflin this time around. We got the Tartarus Titans, the Olympus Bolts, our second game of the day, our second game of the phase as well. And again, we had some roster shakeups that were released in the very first set. Haddock's over now for the Atlantis Leviathans. Now in the Olympus Bolts, Baskin has joined the roster over for the solo lane.
Yep, Hayes replacing Haddock's over in the solo. Young Wooney Kim making a debut yet again in the solo lane. Has been playing mid, though, for the last couple of years, so I'm excited to see how he lines up against one of the best in the league in SOT. For those of you who weren't paying attention a little bit earlier on today, there's been some rumblings on social media, on Reddit, on Twitter, that maybe there's some roster changes for the Tartarus Titans as well. Hear me now. There aren't. Layers is not here, but is playing.
Yeah, is still playing for the Tartarus Titans, but is playing from home. And as you can see by our schedule, this is our second match of the day. Still plenty more to SMITE to go for the weekend. Dragons and Scarabs, Kings and Valkyries round out tomorrow. Then Leviathans, Titans, Bolts, Scarabs, and Dragons, Kings will be our Sunday triple header. But before we can even get to Saturday, before we can get to Sunday, we got to get through this set here, and this should be a very good one. With the Tartarus Titans holding on to at least their entire roster, not making any kind of change-ups, should still be a solid foundation of a team from Phase 2, now transitioning into Phase number 3. The Olympus Bolts, and I think probably the big talking point that's at least going to be for this first week for them, is how Baskin is going to be making those adaptations. As you highlighted, has been playing mid the last couple of years in the SCC, did play professional solo lane before that time. It's just going to be a matter of how long it takes him to get back into that swing.
And you know, there's been a conversation around Baskin, like he does this every year. You know, not a year goes by in the SPL where Baskin doesn't get his hands on it, at least somehow, some way. But what has consistently impressed me about Baskin as a player and as a competitor is no matter how much time he has to dedicate to the SPL, no matter what role he's playing, he doesn't half-ass it. My man is going all in all the time. He's practicing his role in ranked. He's grinding the game consistently. He's keeping up to date with the meta. He's showing up to scrims, and he is always giving 100% of his effort. So is Baskin expected to perform at his peak today? No, absolutely not. Is he expected to perform at his peak in his next set? Probably not there either. But as we get closer and closer to Worlds, I think we're going to get closer and closer to that version of Baskin that we're so used to seeing in all the SMITE highlight reels on YouTube and all the documentaries and everything that we've seen. We're going to get closer to that version of him, but you got to give him some time, and I'm willing to give him that leeway. That's not to say that he might not just pop off and impress us today. He's very capable of doing exactly that. But, you know, let's give him a little bit of leeway.
And that's always, you know, the one thing with a player like Baskin is you never necessarily know what he's going to bring out. I mean, this is a player back when in his time in Solo Days was playing some of the off-meta, and even his time as mid was playing a little bit of off-meta. I mean, there was a reason he was also had a whole team named after him, Baskin and the Boys. He was a hard carry in that mid role for a while. But I think you're right to stress that this is kind of his first real competitive, I had to stress competitive game back now in the solo lane. He's probably been slamming at least the ranked queues, been slamming the scrims out there. But now he's got to see how he can go up against the Tartarus Titans. And luckily, we got Gormizer standing by to talk with Baskin for a pregame interview.
That's right. I've got Baskin sitting here, and we're gonna keep it warm up, right? Because you're coming back in. I don't want to throw you into the depths of an interview. So just real instant. Just how's it feel being back in the Pro League, playing again? I know you took a few years off. You played in the Challenger circuit for a little bit. What's it like being back here?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's a little unfamiliar, I guess, especially when I came back, like, the first couple of weeks. I was really bad, like, probably the worst I've ever been since, like, 2014. But yeah, it's been fun getting back into it, you know. So I'm still sort of acclimating, I guess, like to scrims and like giving comms, taking comms, even just playing the game. But yeah, it's fun.
And I know, like, last time, again, because it's been like a while since you were playing competitively and specifically for the SPL, but now everything's on LAN. You get to be in the studio with the full team. You can see the Titans across the hall. What's the feeling like for you?
I mean, it's not super unfamiliar because like I had played at LANs before, but yeah, I mean, this also is like my first like week here or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I guess just it's fun. I don't know.
Yeah, first game back into the SPL, immediately thrown on the LAN. Yeah, it's got to be a little disorienting. I know it is fun though, because like you're playing with a bunch of guys that have been around for a while, but specifically like you've teamed with Bera before. So I guess how's the team environment felt? How have you been feeling, just kind of adapting to playing with them again?
Yeah, the team environment's great. Obviously, I teamed with Bera and Ven before. Bera on Cloud9 and Ven on Splice, I believe. And Jake and Lasper have been great teammates. So, and they've also helped me a lot, like, cause like just getting back in the game, you know. So, and they've been really like patient, I guess, with some not so great games. So yeah, it's all been good.
Yeah, it sounds fun. I'm excited to watch it. I'm sure everyone at home is as well. But that's going to do it for us here in the booth. We're going to get these guys in game, kick it right back to the desk.
Thank you so much, Goran Baskin, for the pregame interview. And I think right at the end, just talking, players, especially his teammates, they got to kind of deal with maybe some of the not-so-great games, but eventually Baskin can get to that swing out there. Looking down, like player stats, in our little database, I'm just looking at the amount of teams this guy has played on. That's just for how long he's been there. I see Denial, Cloud9, Callan Wardens,
Callbacks.
Denial, Luminosity, Space Station, so many teams out there that Baskin has played, but right now he's got to play up against the Tartarus Titans and go against SOT, who's been one of the hottest solo laners on the market, especially in Phase 2, when we saw kind of this transition of the Tartarus Titans throughout Phase 2. It was, okay, we're sticking to this triple hunter style of meta. We're going to put Uller over on SOT or Chernobog on SOT. And then we saw them kind of stray away from it. They went back towards a little bit more of the norm. And then they went right back to this kind of odd style out there. So it's kind of a curveball for SOT as well up against Baskin.
Yeah, I think that SOT is a student of the meta. He was playing the Hunters in the solo lane when everybody else was. He was one of the first ones to do it, to be sure, but that's back when pressure was the main component of what made a good solo laner. It's, hey, we want to get to the Totemakus, we want to control your back camps, we want to control your blue. Nowadays, and I think exemplified in the previous set, pressure belongs to the duo lane yet again. That's generally where we're starting to see a lot of it established. Maybe that's a byproduct of Zapman's selection. Maybe that's exactly what the SPL is prioritizing as of right now. Otherwise, I think SOT is just about what you want from a solo laner. He's going to play consistent picks. He'll get on the King Arthurs if he has to. He'll get into that front line and control space incredibly well. So I think going to be a phenomenal test for Baskin whether or not he can hold his own. I think that when you have a new player to the league, like Baskin is, it has to be incremental successes. Can I hold my own in lane? Can I make sure I'm not the reason we lose? Okay, I'm doing that consistently. Let's start to step up. Can I start to take some small wins? Maybe I get totem control. Maybe I can strip away a blue buff here or there. It's not going to be easy to do any of that up against SOT, who has consistently gotten the majority of Totemakus, who has very consistently controlled every single one of the buffs on that side of the map and has got one of the more adaptable god pools in the solo lane as far as the SPL is concerned. Maybe not a great testing point. I don't like my example anymore. This is going to be are you a break or bend type situation for Baskin.
And kind of talking about Baskin against SOT, we know that SOT can play a lot of strange things. We know that Baskin is capable of also doing that. But do you think for the Olympus Bolts that maybe change their draft as we jump into picks and bans, do you think maybe they go for more of like the training wheel style of solo laners? Get you something easy, something that really doesn't lose out to kind of get you warmed back up? Or do you think that Baskin is just going to be like, nah, just give me this and let's just run with it?
I'm thinking that the Bolts are going to try and force Baskin into a very similar style as what we had seen from Haddix. You do not want to cater your team to a player that has taken a significant break from competitive play. You don't want to adjust your draft to him. You want him adjusting to you. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a Cullen lock-in or King Arthur, and you keep it generally to the standard. Training wheels stuff, yeah, you could play Jormungandr, you could play Sun Wukong and just survive in lane, but perfect practice makes perfect, and that wouldn't be perfect practice. So I'd much prefer to see Baskin play something a bit more standard for himself.
Well, catch up on the bans so far. Dodgy, Guan Yu, and Kabrakan banned away by the Tartarus Titans. The Bolts will ban away Iset, the Morgan, and Yamoja. So as we saw in our first game, the rise of the Fabless Hoop seems to bring a couple of these more frontline healers kind of to the forefront. Guan Yu, notably the one who has risen up the last couple of weeks. So seeing another ban, at least here in game number 1, this time around the set, will open up Terra for the Tartarus Titans. That was something we were seeing banned a lot in our first set.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see this so consistently prioritized. I suppose she's another one that does just really utilize that Fabless incredibly well. Has decent pressure in the long lane, does have some flex potential, could head over to solo. I doubt we do see that, but I'd be remiss not to bring up the possibility of it. But what Terra is always going to bring, just by nature of her kit, regardless of meta and maybe some slight number changes year in and year out, is that she is a phenomenal counter-engaged selection. She's great in the team fight. If somebody on the Olympus Bolts has dot damage of any sort or an all-in engagement style of a spearhead composition, Terra just drops Earthen Fury and says, good luck killing my team. They're getting a burst heal regardless. You're not one-shotting my guys. And even in that situation, you can also just jam down a meditation or something along those lines to help out. And now with Fabulous on top of that, you're getting 7.5% of your HP as a shield too. So I think Terra probably going to find a pretty decent home in the current meta. The Bolts, on the other hand, locking in their duo lane very, very early. Looks like pressure still remains the name of the game for the long lane. Cupid and Ymir, that's a very kill-centric composition.
Seems to be just play for whatever can get you the scepter, at least on first, maybe even second rotation of that buff spawning up. So Olympus Bolts with Cupid and Ymir will now round out the duo lane for the Bolts, so Jake and Bear don't have to worry about their picks for some time. Now it opens up the question of where do the Bolts go for their next pick? Do they try and grab something for Lasbra maybe a little bit early on after this set gets locked in by the Tartarus Titans and a Vulcan? This is something that you guys talked about in the waiting room a little bit. With the very briefly, maybe we can go a little bit more into it here. Cripple will no longer affect at least the backfire from Vulcan, so now we can use that even under those effects of the CC. Think that's going to be a nice little help out here for the Tartarus Titans.
Should be. I mean, you got a Cupid on the other side, right? Fields of Love now no longer works against Vulcan again. So Backfire, the first ability, used to be affected by cripples. You weren't allowed to cast it. You now are. It is no longer considered a movement ability, which should help him consistently reposition out of that massive no-play zone that is Fields of Love. But it doesn't shore up the other weakness, which is that Vulcan doesn't have a leap, which means Ymir, sure, should be able to deal with him relatively well. Terra telegraphed in her dashes too. You throw out 3 or the 2 first. You want to dash through it so you can get 2 dashes. Ymir knows where you're going, and he can toss up a wall and make sure that that 2 dash is just a singular. So I think the Bolts have got some pretty decent counterplay into what the Titans have drafted for themselves already. But what the Titans have got is phenomenal objective secure and burn potential. That turret from Vulcan essentially just acts as an unofficial 6-man in Fire Giant, Gold Fury situations. Earthshaker, of course, one of the highest damage abilities in the game, should help out in those situations as well. But I am curious as to what the early game is going to look like for the Titans, because looking at each one of their individual pieces, none of them really screams early game pressure or even ways to deal with pressure. Whereas the Bolts, all 3 of their first selections just run it down from level 1 till the end of the match.
King Arthur for that Bolts team to round out the top 3. Hades and Ratatoskr bands for the Olympus Bolts. Tartarus Titans start with the Nemesis.
Wait, J-Mac.
And what?
Do you think it's set ADC? If it's set ADC, I take it back. That's your pressure.
So here's the thing. When the set got locked in, immediately I thought, okay, this is 3 potential picks. This is either Paul, this could be over for Cyclone Spin, or it could be for Layers in the jungle. With the Vulcan lock-in,
I thought
most
it was
likely not going over to Paul. Could be some possibility. Now, I will say, seeing this Hades band at least gives me a little bit of joy, because I don't play solo lane very much. It's like my least favorite role to at least play. But the other day, I got locked into multiple solo lane games, and every one of them was against the Hades. So something about this guy, is it just this Bancross Claw that's really kind of made this guy just sick in the solo lane, or in general?
I thought I'd get through today without having to talk about Bancroft's Claw, man. That item makes me unreasonably angry, all right? I won't do it often, but I'll tell you who wrote that ability, chat. That was Aggro. That was your favorite caster, went over to the design team and made us a 6-paragraph item. Yeah, dude, you can consume 1 stack of hunger, so you get 2 stacks of satiated. It gives you HP shields or something. Like, I don't know. The item's insane. That's all you need to know, and it does synergize incredibly well on Hades. Every single one of his abilities essentially casted point blank.
Steed and I
he's going to get the value of that item every single
adventure.
time. But it is so hard to read, man. I joke with you not, chat, and J-Mac. I had to read that ability 3 times. I jumped into the caster chat and was like, guys, I don't know what this does. Trelly's reading it. I could swear I saw him going cross-eyed through Twitter. I had to reach out to the actual designer. I was like, yo, Aggro, what's this do? And he essentially just said to me, yeah, get close, get HP shield. And I was like, bro, I wish it just said that instead.
Well, at least we got the simplified explanation for you, for the fans at home, for me, for everybody else who may have needed at least a paraphrased response on how it works as an item and how it works with Hades. Najah, the last band for the Tartarus Titans, opens up Lancelot for the Olympus Bolt, so we will see at least the Arthurian duo over on the right side of the map. And with the Camazotz locked in, this is most often gone over towards layers in the jungle. So that wonder of the set ADC very likely still open up there.
Bro, what
Thor,
year is this?
This is a triple assassin comp, and I'm willing to hedge my bets that this is Thor for SOT.
Man, the Titans really looked at one of their 2017 drafts and was like, yo, we were on to something, and just try and run it back. I mean, the composition has got synergies inherently built in. Vulcan has got plenty of setup now between Terra and Thor to find some pretty impactful ultimates. But as far as how the draft is going to look in a 5-on-5 engagement, I'm imagining a whole lot of Terra set Camazotz and Thor running it down, and Vulcan hoping and praying that they win that fight fast enough to come back and help him, because he's got no way to follow up on a whole lot of that dive. Whereas the Bolts, it's just dive, dive, dive all the way across the board. Great space control as well. Traditional Smite knowledge forces me to predict that the Olympus Bolts should likely win out on this one. It's just a much more standard composition that has been tested by time, whereas the Tartarus Titans have gone towards something a bit more wacky, I suppose. Historically, when Cyclone doesn't feel like playing Hunters, the Tartarus Titans simultaneously don't feel like winning consistently. Doesn't mean that they never do, but they generally look a lot better when at least one of them can go pew-pew, and none of them are doing that right now.
Well, Paul kind of can, but doesn't
Kinda.
pew-pew nearly as hard as a
Or as
traditional
quickly.
hunter or even like a mage hunter would do so. But it's interesting to bring up, though, seeing another non-traditional god go over into that lane. First day with the Leviathans, we saw Zapman take 2 mages in the dual lane, so our only hunters were at least over for Shinto, but those were more ability-style hunters. And even with the build changes that we've seen, we saw a vote run it twice in his games when he was playing a traditional hunter, kind of leads me to believe that maybe we're trying to see that kind of war of the mindsets between these hunters. Can the burst just beat out the traditional pew-pew, as you called it, over in the duo lane?
So far, it hasn't worked out that way, has it?
No.
And there are ways to shore up your burst if you want to play a hunter. I know that crit's not exactly as strong as it once was a little bit earlier this year, or even in Season 7 or Season 6, but you could still build crit if you want to see big numbers. And I think that that is still certainly a viable avenue for some of these players. But the new attack speed, just Transcendence, Executioner, Kin Size build, air quotes new, seems to be working very well, especially against frontline, really heavy compositions like that. Sure, it's like triple assassin for the Tartarus Titans, but you better believe at least 2 of them are going to be building pretty tanky. I'm thinking if we see the Bolts just have this Cupid get themselves an Exy Kin Size, it could do a whole lot of damage to this Titans draft.
Yeah, a lot of frontline, a lot of dive more than anything out of the Tartarus Titans. Terra, kind of their only traditional frontline as far as a tank is concerned, but we have seen Camazotz's and Thors of the past go a little bit more a bruiser. So curious to see what the build path will be there. Much more standard out of the Olympus Bolts, Discordia to round out their draft. Something that we saw a lot from the Jade Dragons was Discordia, King Arthur. Get pressure in the soul lane for Final K seems to be at least what the Bolts are going for in this game over for Baskin over in that lane.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that Discordia passive is just going to King Arthur regardless, right? I mean,
Got it.
nobody else. Maybe Lancelot, I guess, but even then, we've been seeing junglers spend a little bit more time in the jungle itself, trying to farm up consistently. So how does that matchup start to work? Camazotz can deal with the additional damage that King Arthur should be able to put forth because he's got sustain built into the kit, Vampiric Bats, the leap, great survivability from the ultimate. So it could be a situation, and we won't see this often, where this King Arthur, the Bolt Soul Laner, just decides to, I suppose, take a little bit slower approach to the lane so that that passive from Discordia can land on someone that's actually capable of finding a kill. I doubt that's the case. The second you decide to stop fighting, it's going to give over pressure to that Camazotz. Assuming it is Camazotz jungle, could also be Thor, or Camazotz solo rather, could be Thor solo, could be Set solo, could be Terra solo. The Titans keep us guessing.
All right,
so
well, hold on.
that-
If you're calling Terra solo,
Well,
I mean,
it could be. I said could be.
I guess technically you're not wrong. It could be. Will we see them do that? Probably not.
Could be.
I mean, which of those gods do you throw support? Thor?
Sure.
Is that the one that,
Sure.
you throw support in that case?
He's the only other
definitely.
one that's got consistent CC. Yeah, yeah.
All right, so if we do see a Terra solo and a Thor support, Mifflin's called it here first.
Well, I said could.
Could have called it here first.
Yeah, could have.
Potentially.
If it happened, I'll take the credit. If it doesn't happen, I didn't say anything.
Very true. Olympus Bolts, Tartarus Titans, our second set of the day in day number 1 of our third phase. Remember, this is the road to Worlds. The better that you place now, the better chance you have to getting to Worlds maybe a little bit sooner than some of the other teams out there. Who's going to take game number 1? Tartarus Titans and Olympus Bolts. We'll throw it over to Gore and Trelly for game 1.
Thank you so much, J-Mac and Mifflin. Yeah, I'm excited for this one, Trelly. There's multiple reasons. Originally, it was because Baskin's going to be playing. And now it's because, what is this team? Okay, so it is Terra that is going into the support role. So that clarifies the discussion from the desk.
Yep.
I did not guess about the Vulcan carry for Cyclone Spin, something that I think every time Vulcan gets brought in, I talk about Snoopy playing him over there. It's been ages since someone's actually done it, though.
Well, I guess because you're up against the Cupid and you don't care about Fields of Love anymore. You turn around, backfire
that's a good
out.
point.
Yeah, you turn around, backfire out, and you say, "Nice ult." Now I didn't have to use my beads. That could be the main reason.
And if you hit him with the backfire, then bonus damage for you.
There you go. And I think more specifically, as we do see Awesome Jake going for the purple buff invade, this is going to get 2 more autos and it's clean. I don't think they're getting here in time. Aurora tried to make it over, but it's not going to be the case. Look how slow he's going to be walking away, though.
Super slow, no hog, so it was just the autos and the abilities. But hey, he gets it, and that's going to strip it away. Granted, at least attack speed-wise, it's not the worst thing that could have happened to the Titans there. Still not ideal. Level 2 should be there for the Bolts duo lane a little bit quicker, specifically to support a little bit quicker. And this is going to be a question, I guess, both for you as well as for Doug, which is going to be the levels that Cyclone Spin is going. What you want to see, and specifically, we just saw he has the backfire now. But I know, it's been player-specific in times of past. Sometimes it's turret. Sometimes it's backfire. Never has it been meatball.
Right. Which
do you prefer to see in lane?
I want meatball. I want. You put it in my head. I want backfire maxed.
Okay.
I want 2 points in the turret just to be extra cringe, and then max meatball. That's what I prefer. And we see a level 1 brawl here because they did not hit level 2. Cyclone could be in some trouble.
Yeah, this is dangerous position for him. Barra looking for the autos. Heart Bomb was good. Body blocks were good. Slow is good. Beads used by Cyclone. Just trying to stay alive with the autos. They're too good, and the Heart Bomb does it. And Barra's going to get first blood here in game number 1.
I mean, we can give credit to Barra for that. Great heart bomb, but that's all because of the invade from Awesome Jake, right? You don't hit level 2. There's no extra clear you get, and now your duo lane is going to be sitting just fine in that lane. We didn't get a chance to harp on it, but Paul playing set is not something that is...
Yeah, that's not that new.
Yeah, that's not new. Of course, Cyclone Spin also has been playing the set ADC every once in a while, so that was where originally the thought went to. But Paul, whenever he's slamming the rank Qs as well, loves going the set mid. It gets a lot of pressure, and you're really not going to lose any matchups to any mages, right? You're just going to out-clear, out-poke, and you're so safe as well.
And I feel like I should make it clear. I don't really care where the Vulcan was going. I was going to talk about him first no matter what because it's Vulcan, of all things. Second point, second level, has gone for the meatball, so that's just something I want to keep my eye on just because it's fun. I also want to keep our eye over here on the solo lane, not only because Lasber's hanging around, but also Baskin is someone that we want to keep our eyes on. And you know what? Well, we have a little bit of downtime. The team's going for their blue buffs. Everybody kind of falling back. I'd like to take a look back at that first blood, specifically, Trelly, because of the body blocks. Mainly from Jake.
I mean, just look at Barry doing ring around the rosy, trying to find the heart bomb and then get the insta explosion.
Just so clean.
And that's one of those plays that you got to hold on to that heart bomb, right? Because if you're not confirming that hit on the Cyclone Spin, you're not getting that kill. Jake hits the carpet, gets the slowdown, and Cyclone has to beat, and at that point, that's the only way that you're able to survive that. So great play once again by the duo lane. And now, this is sort of what I expected from the Tartarus Titans at the very least. You're not going in as Thor. Like, Layers is not looking to get active until level 5. When you get access to Anvil of Dawn, you can make your presence known throughout the map. But at the moment, Thor is just, he's got a cool hammer. That's about it until it looks like maybe trying to find a kill over on Baskin, but Baskin, ever the wiser, is going to back up just fine.
Yeah, keeping your eyes on that level 4 to level 5 transition for Layers is going to be a big deal. Also because, admittedly, I thought Camazotz was going to be there for Layers. Instead, it's Kama solo, which again isn't necessarily unseen, right? The set mid, the Kama solo, the Thor jungle isn't an unheard of thing. It's just weird seeing all 3 of them together. I think that really comes through. Used to 2 assassins, 3 here. Aurora taking a little bit of poke from the Bolts. Should be able to get out of here on the duo side lane. Just barely under his tower. Even Cyclone's been getting aggressive for his teammate, getting some of that farm. This is where things get interesting, at least over here. Clear of a mage versus the clear of a Cupid. Kind of balancing out, favoring the Cupid right now just because of Ymir. There's also a conversation, Jelly, to be had about the other side of the map. As
yeah.
fun as and as much as I want to focus on this Vulcan, it is going to be Baskin.
Right.
The last time he played competitively, at least in the SBL, King Arthur wasn't even in the game. And so now he's locked in on that. It's just really interesting to think of what that dynamic is like. Going up against Sot, who wasn't even playing the last time he was in the Pro League. I mean, there's so much for Baskin, I think, to try and take over here.
Yeah, and I did see that Sod tweeted out like before this game, like, hey guys, check out twitch.tv/SMITE Gonna be live up against Baskin. I'm terrified. Like, join in. So I do think the stardom maybe getting to him a little bit here, that he's fighting a living legend.
I mean, especially if you think about it, like for some of these guys, you know, Sot, I think layers to an extent, right? If you're not Aurora and Cyclone's been on this team, even Paul maybe, who might have had a brief overlap of Pro League time with him, like if you're watching SBL prior to your Pro League career, guess who you were watching? You saw Baskin and heard the conversations. Right now, though, Aurora's in trouble. Lots of ults being dropped on him. He's going to be able to dash out of there. Purple buff invade for the Bolts, trying to steal it away from the Titans. They have the damage, and yeah, just clean. They managed to get it.
I'm very so. I mean, I know that Aurora's tanky, but that was so much healing there. Not even really worried about his life, and still able to walk up to purple buff and defend. Of course, doesn't get it, but there was a lot of ultimates dropped onto that Terra, and that's a full HP Terra, as you can see now. So wasn't too worried about it. Still lots of pressure over towards that duo side, because there are important things on the map, like the Interceptor, for example. That awesome Jake is trying to confirm, and Aurora's trying to steal away, but looks like Jake does get to pick it up. Now he gets the Shocky Boy back once again.
And that's been a big thing, right? Because originally, and again, for those of you who maybe haven't played Smite so far this year, you see the obelisks, charge those up. First time comes around, charge them, you get the Interceptor. If you get it first, you're the only team that gets it. Second time, trebuchets. Those still exist, right? If you charge that up whenever they come off cooldown here in a second, you're going to start seeing the offerings around the map, picking those up. It's going to charge your obelisk, get yourself a trebuchet, give you some free push on a lane. But adding that back in with the Interceptor, I mean, the Interceptor was such a huge conversation to the point where it got nerfed like heavily in Phase 1 because of how much pressure you could get with it. It's still not like crazy powerful, but it is, I mean, just free pressure. If you're able to grab it, it's really helpful for the support.
Yeah, and I think it's also helpful in the duo lane matchup, and it looks like we might finally get to see a handful of done as Paul goes into the Kingslayer chasing this one down.
And what a dunk. Vin gets stunned, Paul gets the kill, and Vin is gone. Lasper, though, might be the next in trouble, uses the ult, closes the gap, a little more damage, and that's all Paul needs. And unfortunately, the Bolts, they're marching in one by one. 2 frontliners versus 4 on the Titans, and Baskin's taken out of here. Jake left alone trying to get out of here. Sot doesn't seem to want to leave him. That is going to be just enough. The Titans come in, swing 3 in their favor, and get to back off to the jungle.
I think that's the strength of this Tartarus Titans draft. This triple assassin dive, all very similar builds, just transcendence, and we're online, right? We've got it. We've got crazy scaling early on. This is one of the strongest points that assassins get up against their mage counterparts, because then he just can't match that DPS right now. Late game, he'll be chunking, of course, but at the moment, these assassins really are swinging. So great Anvil of Dawn combo with the Kingslayer, as we get to see that Cyclone's still just maxing the backfire, as you would expect.
Yeah.
About level 10, that's when we might see some sort of intricacies there for the Vulcan. But, I mean, Cyclone's able to just sit lane and say, you guys got it. Like, I'm going to farm up, I'm going to stack my Warlocks, and, you know, as the game goes on, I'll help out, but I'm going to get my purple buff and stay under tower for now.
Just keep it. Look, I mean, at this point, you got bullied for first blood. You got your beats taken. Your first purple buff invaded. You're still a little bit behind in terms of experience for Bera. I like this decision, right?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, every now and then I'll throw a max range ult out for you guys, but it's gonna be used for clear.
One of those, yeah.
Or I'm staying under this tower, man. I'm staying in safety whenever possible, and trying to see what the rest of the team can do. And the rest of the team has been at work, right? I mean, Baskin locked under his tower, Sot having the time of his life right now, it feels like. Maybe even an invade for the Titans over there on left. A lot of presence around the Gold Fury. Doesn't seem like a lot's going to amount out of it. But they're very active, I mean, all across the map, and that's kind of the glory of 2 assassins, that you're going to get something done.
Yeah, you always have an avenue to try and get active when you pick a composition like this, but something to note is they don't have that range damage. You know, sieging is going to be extremely difficult. These sort of compositions do fall off when you're like, wait, I just can't grab Phoenix because no one is auto-attacking besides Cyclones. You have to get extremely close. I think it's going to be all on how well they're able to split the map, right? Double Assassin, you can split up and say, hey, you're not going to win our 2v2, We don't care about the 5v5 team fight because that's not where we're strong. We want to find picks. We want to catch you in the jungle with our Thorolds from across the map and get some relics down, that sort of thing. So the Tartarus Titans are getting active in the early because they have to.
Basket. Okay, yeah, he's going to get out of this one, which wants me. I want to grab onto Thor because I heard, you know, the Berserker's Barrage, him just spinning around. I might have to hold that thought for a second. Blue buff invade from the Titans. Going to be met with force from the Bolts. Lasbra trying to fight Sot. Sot actually doing surprisingly well. Kamazot's gets out of there, bat out of hell.
Gets out of hell.
Yeah, it's going to do
well,
what he wants.
Somehow.
But this is the one that is always interesting to me. Maybe some interesting plays on the dual lane as well. Meatball thrown, doesn't get the knockup, but the damage is still there. Cyclone does not have ult. Jake is going to be able to walk out of this one. Paul's made the rotation. Has the teleport forward. Slow onto Jake. Good wall, though. Gets the Ymir a little bit more distance. There's some lockdown from Aurora. But it's not going to be enough to find the kill. The Bolts secure themselves into the tower. Now a counter rotation might be happening. Lasbra is leading the initiation onto Cyclone Spin, and unfortunately there's not a lot of Vulcan can do about this one. Locked down, and the kill turnaround for the Bolts.
Yeah, and it looks like if that heart bomb hit maybe a little bit more chase down, his Baskin could be getting soloed. Welcome back to the SPL. Unfortunate SOT is going to take that one.
And look, that's maybe the most welcome back that you're going to get. 2-0-2. Yeah, the Kamazots is feeling good about it. Roar, walled off, frozen, killed off Lasbra, never left the lane. And they're going blow for blow for blow again. And the Bolts take a small lead, not necessarily in the kill department, or even in the gold department, but they are going to with this Gold Fury.
Yeah, they got some low health bars, though, and the second they hear this, that's got to be the call to back off. And it looks like Paul was also on the way. Just going to ult onto those oracles and make sure the Tartarus Titans have vision. I think that's the smart call. When Anvil of Dawn is up and you're full HP, sure, you can bait it out. But when you have low mana, all of your ults are down from chasing those kills, right when you see that one go up, say, all right, guys, we don't really need to go this. And Cyclone just going to continuously send ults because he doesn't want to step up to the wave. Smart man.
Yeah, and honestly, I get it, right? Until later on, like, your ult's going to do pretty decent damage right at this point in the game, but might as well just be patient with it. You're not necessarily impacting crazy team fights just yet. It would have been nice maybe in that last engagement to kill off Jake or get some extra burst damage, but, you know, you win some, you lose some with that one. We'll see how that ends up going. I am going to come back to this, and I'm happy I get to circle back, because Worlds has been the topic of conversation, has been the focus, because that's what this phase leads up to. You know, tickets go on sale 3 days later. They're sold out. Everything feels amazing around it. It's hyped to be in front of a crowd. But one thing that we were talking about, I think, last week, was the audio of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you, and chat, you probably know.
Oh, I do.
But the audio, the bass-boosted Thor abilities, just feel so iconic. And Layers is giving me some chills just thinking about what we could see at Worlds. Especially now as the Pyromancer gets taken down, stolen by the Bolts away from the Titan Sot. Forced to use his ult just to disengage. Aurora too deep in the jungle. Apple going to be off the mark, but it does not matter. The damage is there to steal the Pyro and get a kill on the support.
That is going to even up the gold lead. We're sitting pretty much dead even in the whole game. Kills tied 4-4, XP within 300, that doesn't matter, and gold right there as well. So nothing crazy happening. Once this Gold Fury breaks out, I think that's going to be the first real spike of the game. But because of so much burst damage, because of so much global vision from both of these squads, it's not easy. But Paul, he just solos Ben with Kingslayer, just does not care about the Discordia, no relics up, and you're gone.
Vin, definitely unfortunate flashbacks. Pagon on Assassins in mid, getting soloed. I don't know, it seems a little too familiar for him. Paul continuing the fight in mid. Lasbra and Jake versus Layers and Paul. And it doesn't seem like they're going to push too far into this tower just yet. Sieging was something you had mentioned. And we can maybe touch on that a little bit. Again, Assassin's going to have a little more trouble clearing those towers off the board from the Bolts. If they can get in there, that's fine, but they have a lot more distance to go under the tower to actually do it. The other one is going to be actually mentioned right around this play. Turret level 3 here for Cyclone Spin as they started the Gold Fury. Jake spots it out. There's the ult and the secure for the Tartarus Titans. Pull a lead back in their favor and find themselves ahead of the Bolts.
And you gotta love Vulcan for the objective burn, for just dropping the turret, and then also crazy burst damage. You can time the meatball, the backfire, and the ult all at the same time. That's going to be out-confirming pretty much anything on the map if you time it well enough and you have enough damage built in. So finally, the Gold Fury has been completed, and the Tartarus Titans are able to get themselves the first gold lead, the first real gold lead of the game.
So, Trelly, I have a question for you.
I hope I have an answer.
Is Transcendence good? Because there's 3 of them fully stacked for the Titans immediately for all 3 Assassins.
Well, if you look on the left side of the map, there's 3. And I only see 1 fully stacked Transcendence on the right side of the map, and they're losing at the moment. So I think more Transcendence equals more dubs.
Well, they had to match the number of like prongs on it, right? There's 3 prongs. If you don't have 3, you don't get the full effect or something like that.
Yeah, I think I read that PEMDOS or something, right?
Yeah, PEMDOS.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, if you can build Transcendence, and again, we're joking, but the early game pressure that these assassins get from this item is why they have this lead. I do think it's going to be a little bit more difficult to find these picks later on if you don't have this massive gold lead. So once again, the Tartarus Titans are playing this comp exactly how you need to. Find the kills when you can. Look to get these one-man picks. That's what you're looking for. A one-man advantage, that should be winning you these fights or at least winning you these objectives. But take a look at how much damage is being thrown and all the sustain as Laspa rides in, but Lairs isn't too far behind.
This is going to be a really good spot for them. Baskin a little too low. Cyclone Spin though, or sorry, I should say SOT. Locked down, bat out of hell. One of the things that's great about Kamazotz gets you out of there. Nice little juke, but not far enough. Great aim from Lasper, predicts the lead. But unfortunately, Layers, like you said, here, stun good, hammer good, damage not there to kill Lasper, and it's going to be one more hit. Baskin puts himself on the board for 2, finding a kill on Layers.
Roar wants to try and blow up the ult, does get it, but it's going to need more damage, and the wall. Just make sure that Baskin's going to live this one. And the Bolts get to answer back in a huge way. Not only do they kill 2, they get both of Layers' relics. That means Thor has to be so frugal about the ultimate. You can't just Anvil of Dawn in and save your hammer. It can get caught by so many different abilities, and then you're just stuck in place. You need the beads or the Aegis, hopefully both, and Layers has to dial it back for quite some time. Cyclone did put me in my place. He said, I'm going to max the turret first. I'm not doing the 2 points. I want full damage, but it also means it's going to be a little bit harder to kill.
No, that was the thing that was always interesting to me about like old Vulcan in the SBL was like depending on who was playing him and what role he was in, because he was tossed between mid and carry a lot. Some players like Snoopy, I remember leveling the turret over the backfire and anything else just so he just toss it down and leave the lane. Same thing would happen in mid sometimes. Some people went for the backfire. The backfire is just more consistent, easy burst clear, so it is the option for a majority of people at this point nowadays. Meatball, a little bit on the back burner. Still, a lot of damage that can come out of him. That's the trade-off, right? Not a lot of mobility, but he will kill you if you give him the opportunity. Damage from Vulcan can be quite a bit to deal with. Plus, and this is something that's been a big conversation, secure mages versus non-secure mages, you know, your Merlins who can burn things versus your Vulcans or your Thoths, things like that. It definitely feels like there's an advantage for the Titans around objectives.
Yeah, no doubt, and especially if they can find a pick before, but look at the XP difference. There's some, like Paul's 2 levels up, just absolutely soaking up farm on this set. But then you look at Layers, who's level 13 at the moment, who really cannot be going in for quite some time, trying to find as much farm as possible, and there is some sort of brawling happening on the right side of the map, but again, there's no reason for Layers to show any face over here. He needs to farm, he needs to hit level 14, that's what he's looking for. He's not looking for any gank opportunities.
Well, Aurora is at least trying to alleviate some of that pressure. Baskin, again, from getting soloed under the tower by a Kamazotz who's got the assassin scaling, to the King Arthur we know and well, depending on who you are, either you love or hate. Right? Just good damage, good control, and he's not going to die if you don't commit a lot to him. Jake kind of in a similar position, takes a little bit of poke there, and the jungle should be fine here. Nice strike from Vin, not necessarily amounting to much. I think just kind of showcasing utility on both sides of the score here. Kamazotz good at disengage, though. So we'll see which one maybe is the one that leads the way for the solo laners. Pyromancer started up by the Titans. It doesn't look like there's going to be too much presence from the Bolts. Lasbra is leaving the area. Bera's just split pushing, has the Interceptor as well. So he's going to be looking for a tier 2 to match that Pyromancer.
Yeah, I love this from Bera, though, because that tier 2 is going to go a long way. You're trying to get to late game as quickly as possible. No one from the Tartarus Titans can get here and stop his back in time. And now you just have a Cupid that's like really far ahead. You've got Atalantas. You're building into what I'm assuming is going to be that, the Fail Not tree is coming up next. So a fair bit of crit chance coming from Barracuda as well as some CDR. You're going to be dropping those Fields of Loves pretty much on cooldown. And Cyclone has been playing that lane exactly how you'd expect a Vulcan into a Cupid to. Just stay away. I want free farm. I don't want to lose my relics to you. I'm ulting like every other wave whenever I can. And stay back. Mabera has been trying to get as much farm as possible and fast forward to late game. When I hit level 20, you guys don't have a Hunter. We do. I should be able to hard carry this game given that situation if these assassins just don't run through the back line.
And now, I mean, worst case scenario, and this maybe plays right into your hand earlier, right? Gold lead has shifted in favor of the Bolts because of that tower. You look at a lot of the control on the map, they've taken 3 towers already without losing a single one. Maybe this team fight will change how things are. Depending on where things go, freezes walls onto a roar. He's going to take a decent chunk of damage, about half HP. Apple off the mark. And the Ricochet's not going to connect with anybody. The Bolts might have to back away from this Fury here, but it shows where their mind is at. They've got a lead, they've stripped it away from the Titans, and they want to push it as hard as they can.
Yeah, I think that's the 3rd apple I've seen Ben miss. Like, I think he's just chucking them out at this. But yeah, he's got 2, he's bottom damage, so there's no way he's hit more apples since then. I think he's just chucking them out, seeing what'll stick. It's one of those abilities that if you get lucky and it bounces off the wall and like hits a carry, you're going crazy. But hey, since there's no fight after the fact, I guess it doesn't matter too much. Looks like an ult in for Vulcan. It does connect with Awesome Jake.
Yeah, he's low. Sot's looking for the kill. Freeze isn't going to be enough. The beads are used. That's a kill from Paul onto Jake. Aurora stays alive for now. Lasbra almost stunned out, but the ult so well timed and manages to close the gap, get the kill. But can he escape is the question he and the rest of the Bolts are asking. The answer is a resounding no, and it's a 2-for-1 trade in favor of the Titans.
Yeah, now the Titans have the option to try and pull this gold trade. They are grouped for it, and Cyclone drops the turret. Barracuda, once again, just playing Tower Simulator. He doesn't care about this objective. He's just going for the tier 2.
Look, he's playing PvE right now, and look, it's good pressure for him. Oni Fury low, dropped by the Titans. Health slowly regenerating on the objective. Sot's low as well. Baskin making sure to show face, as well as Vin. Vin's not going to be able to get the turnaround, though. Layers is going to get TKO'd. The rest of the Titans fall back. No Fury falls, but they lose Vin in the process. Almost lose Baskin as well. Barra gets a tower and a half, and it feels like even at the end of the day, with a kill going the way of the Titans, maybe more beneficial for the Bolts.
Yeah, I'm 100% sold on the fact that the team as a whole said, we are going to win this late game. Whether or not it's true, doesn't matter. They are confident in their late game prowess, and they say, Barra, just go get 20. We don't care how you do it. Don't come to the fight. Hit level 20. Come back when you can hard carry us the game. And Barra's been doing just that. Just, I'll go get every tower. Oh, they're on gold. They're 1 HP. I don't care. I'm going to get half of this tier 2, maybe get some farm in the process. That puts a lot of weight on Barra's shoulders, though, also, because this late game carry is pretty much left up to the Cupid. This Oni Fury is going to be going down uncontested because the Bolts aren't going to be able to step up to that one. And now it's just fast track to this Fire Giant fight. The gold lead still in favor of the Bolts just because of how much farm Barra's been able to accumulate, as well as Baskin as well has a level lead. So finding farm when possible. That's the Bolts strategy here. They want to win this Fire Giant fight. They can't be giving up objectives anymore.
That'll be interesting to watch. Map state-wise, 6 towers still standing for the Bolts plays. Once again, right into the hands. Assassins, if they can get there, close that gap. Really good at killing a tower, but you got to get in the tower range. And so Barra's been able to clear up a lot now with only 2 tier 2 standing, 1 in mid, 1 in right for the Titans. A Phoenix exposed. We're 22 minutes in. This feels like a really good conversation to shift towards this Fire Giant. And, of course, the new Fire Giant pit, by the way, with the giant tiki face behind him, the skull.
I imagine the volcanoes as like the little tiki torches.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Easter Island heads where there's like way more underneath. The actual tiki torch is maybe hidden, buried.
For some reason, I think of Night at the Museum. You know, the big like Easter Island face. I think it's Easter Island.
Yeah.
Like, Gum Gum is Dum Dum.
I've seen that one. It's in in that museum, as you would imagine. It does not talk in real life.
Well, because you didn't go at night, I'm sure.
Oh, you're actually good point. Maybe he does.
You have to go after hours to get him to talk to you.
Guess I know what my next job is. I'm gonna go become a night guard at a museum, and I believe that was New York, right? The National History Museum up there. Either way, really fun. I recommend that if you want to go see that. I also recommend. Maybe. Actually, you know what, Trelly? I'll ask you this instead of just blanket recommending them. How do you feel about like earrings?
Earrings?
Yeah.
Oh, like just the item? Or
well, you can talk about the item or in general, both, because it seems like Aurora really likes them.
Yeah, Aurora likes them, and so far.
Baskin likes them, but not as heavily.
Yeah, I imagine the Manticore spike could be like one of those like in place of the gauges, like the spike there.
The spiky ones.
Yeah, so pretty prominent in the SPL, as well as, yeah, I like some earrings.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we can't wear them because of headsets. It'd be just wildly uncomfortable. We got 2 picked up here for Aurora. A lot of healing. That was the conversation a little bit earlier. Terra, in circumstances like this, feels like maybe the Catalyst with the Fae Bless, you're going to have that shielding out there as well. So it really does feel like it could be helpful, but you're almost relying on teammates to die, which might happen here. Pyromancer pulled by the Titans. Bolts get aggressive, force them away. Pyromancer's leashed, and it's going to be healing back up. Layers into the sky. Anvil of Dawn. Who will he find? It's just Jake for now, and it's a kill for the jungler on the Titans. Paul finds one in the back, and they're continuing their rampage, chasing down the Bolts. Sot zones out too. Baskin all alone, and finding a lot of damage onto Layers, but it's not enough by himself. Double kill for Paul, and the Titans are able to run this one towards the FG.
A lot of damage on the Cyclone Spin, but not going to be enough. Now it's time for the pull, but some low health bars here for the Tartarus Titans. I think they are just going to back up here, make sure they're sustained. Pull Pyromancer in the meantime as Vera and Ben went nowhere. They don't want to give this up for free. Heart Bomb could be a decent steal opportunity, but now Vera could be getting wrapped around.
Yeah, Sot getting aggressive, slow on to Vin. It's not quite enough. Then the heel's thrown out by Vera, kind of tops everybody off, makes them feel good. It is the beans. I didn't want to call him the beans just because I didn't know which skin he is running, but he's running the can of beans. Steps a little too far forward here. Again, the healing's going to keep them going. Health bars back up towards the top, but so are the Bolts as they slowly make their way back over here. They got a little bit of time. Paskin not back for 10. Lasber's still on his way over. Minions on the left side Phoenix right now as well for the Bolts, so they're opening up slowly parts of the map. They're also finding a little bit of poke both onto the FG and onto Jake. What a burst from Cyclone Spin to lower the support for the Bolts. He's going to be able to find the kill and close that out, but
That's
it's not
huge.
without cost. They lose Paul. They're about to lose Layers. They lose Cyclone Spin. Health bars low for the Titans, and they're just trying to run away. It's a 3-for-1 trade, and the Bolts take advantage.
That's a 6-0 shutdown on a Paul. That is absolutely massive. SOT hiding in the back camps, but doesn't look like he wants to go towards this Fire Giant. Just going to steal as much farm away as possible. That seems like a massive dropped play there from the Tartarus Titans, and great answer back. Baskin blinking in. You know, the original fight started, and it wasn't even a blink in, just Baskin using that King Arthur movement to get to the backline and just be an absolute menace with this pseudo power build with the upgraded Bluestone Brooch, the Soul Eater and the Gladio, just enough to shred everyone down. Great answer back, and now the Bolts are in a position to start grabbing these Phoenixes. You mentioned that left lane, but it's already pushed out, so I think they're just going to grab this tier 2 and head back, even though 3 dead, all spawning back pretty much at the same time. Looks like the Bolts finally in a commanding position. Fire Giant on 4. Unfortunate for Awesome Jake. Not going to be able to have that. But he's just been, I'm going to walk up. I maybe will wall some stuff. I'll take some damage, and then you guys go in. Like that's, without Blink, that's Jameer's curse. You got to walk in. You're pretty slow. You hit a freeze, then you let your team just take the wheel.
And as of right now, the wheel's going pretty far in their favor, right? FG, like you said, on 4, maybe not on 5. But you got it on the important players, and it's going to feel really good when it comes down to sieging. Sieging, by the way, 1 tower that's left after that tier 2 push they just had on right, plus some Phoenixes that are exposed. Left side Phoenix slightly weakened from minions earlier. Leaves a lot of openings here for the Bolts specifically, Trelly. It feels like, you know, level-wise, you're seeing level 20s, so that doesn't necessarily mean much experience. Gold-wise, it's only like 1,000, maybe 1,500. Let's add on to that because of the Gold Fury. Finally giving them something that feels a little more substantial. A massive spike down in their favor, by the way. But it is the first time that it feels like it's a full amount of control for them and a really good condition of the map to aggress into the Titans area.
Yeah, I would say that the Bolts engage here is not as easy as it would seem, right? There was a lot of low health bars. Fire Giant played a part as well. You can't just dive Phoenix with this kind of lead. It's not big enough. So getting the tier 2 tower is definitely a smart call. Unless the Bolts back up and spend some of that gold, it's not going to be a true lead until the gold is actually used. But Awesome Jake looking a little bit tankier, and I think that's going to be the big difference maker. If Jake can live through these fights, get multiple walls off, multiple freezes, that is really going to help out. And the Bolts siege trying to go for these birds, and it looks like feeling confident enough. Baskin's going to lead the charge and already start tanking it up. They're going for this left side Phoenix.
He's holding onto it, Aurora, keeping some presence. Nice ult from Cyclone. Unfortunately, just scatters the Bolts. Doesn't connect with anybody, so no damage on the board just yet. Cyclone eats a little bit in return. Has to fall backwards. Paul, I think was looking for the loop around, but they saw him coming and they slowed it down. Aurora, frozen, fields of love. There's going to be the shards of ice, all of it used, but a great three-man dunk from Layers at least gives some sort of retaliation. Jake is low, but Sot unable to seal the deal and get the kill. 5 standing for the Bolts, 4 left on the Titans.
Yeah, the sustain from the Beans is actually going to come into play here. Maybe would have had to back up if they can't just sit back and get sustained. Baskin will go back to base and teleport back in, and that should be the end of this left side Phoenix, barring a miraculous play from the Titans here. I mean, Paul does good damage, but without Kingslayer, I mean, only Kingslayer is the only ultimate up. It's not easy to be the solo dive from this full damage set.
Cooldown working its wonders, though, for Cyclone Spin. Ult's almost back up. Maybe a lucky hit from there. Just hard to connect. Usually doesn't work well. Layers is getting deleted by Baskin right now, though. Just off the mark with a hit. And that's going to force the fallback for the solo laner. Might actually be a little egregious from the Bolts. They take a lot of damage. They get the left side Phoenix. Titans stay alive, but can they get out of here is the big question. Seems like so far the answer is yes. Backs a little risky here around the tier 2 line.
I'm running the
So the
whole way
Bolts are
back.
running. There's a little bit of a wall. It feels like that might be the disengage. Aurora's still going for the chase. Doesn't have a blink, doesn't really have any close gap measures. Yeah, they're going to have to let this one go.
Yeah, it depends on, you know, if someone decides to lazy back, and it looks like all of the Bolts are staying together. They've got some wards down, they know.
Honestly, at this point, they're kind of healthy.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, they might...
Maybe they go back over.
Yeah, maybe they just want to go back and fight, but EFG spawning back in shortly. Only 1 bird down. The Tartarus Titans are certainly not out, and the gold lead isn't looking that miraculous either. All you have to do is send someone over to left, clear out those waves, and then you can certainly make a fight over towards this enhanced Fire Giant, and that would be the game changer, right? Not to say that regular Fire Giant's not great, but the enhanced one, that's when you're just soloing these Phoenixes down without minions whenever you need to. So it looks like that is the plan for the Tartarus Titans. They're grouped as 5, covered around this EFG. They know Pyromancer's up, and those minions are coming in fast, so someone's going to have to go back. Maybe the play is just send Cyclone, drop a turret, and just say, you know, your turret can handle it. Let the turret deal with some
turret
minions
plus
for a bit.
minions, well, that's good enough.
Yeah, it's not going to clear, but, you know, it'll distract for a bit, and then at least you have, like, a good gauge. Once your turret dies, you're like, oh, guys, I got to go. Like, so there's going to be fire minions swarming the base here shortly. But it looks like right about 31, that EFG's touching down, and Layers was actually the choice to go back. I would think Layers is one of the better steal options because usually you hear Vulcan ult, everyone stops DPS, they just let it go. But Anvil of Dawn, you can choose exactly when you want to land it. The Bolts aren't going to be pulling this enhanced Fire Giant.
I will give them some credit, though. That was a lot faster clear than I was expecting from Layers. So it doesn't even end up resulting in too much. 2 trebuchets were stored up by the Bolts. 1 is currently going down mid, and the engage around the FG pit is on, Vin. Half health, so is Lasbra. Lasbra almost soloed out, but no, he finds Paul, and he dodges the dunk down from Layers. Leap up and down, gets him out of there, and he's able to stay alive. Cyclone Spin off the mark with the ultimate, and the Bolts are able to get away with murder, but can they escape fully? It's the question of the hour. Vin so low, and Sot's going to be able to find that one. 1 for 1 trade, mid for mid. Good wall from Jake, good freeze, could keep things going. It seems like the Titans have the disengage.
Yeah, Titans, the time is working against them. Trebuchet in mid, fire minions on the Titan. All the Bolts have to do is try and stall out these backs as long as possible, and it looks like that is the plan. If the Titans stick around too long, Enhanced Fire Giant still goes down. Remember, Barracuda has a ton of DPS, and it looks like that is the call. Layers is defeating the Trebuchet while minions are on the Titan, and once again, the Bolts are going to pull this Fire Giant. Not taking too much, but that damage will start to add back up.
4v3 in the FG pit. Ult's down for all of the Titans. Baskin still has his. Jake has his. Maybe Shards of Ice, maybe not the big game changer that it could be. But it is still something that is a benefit for them. Pyromancer gets pulled by the Bolts. Leashed, they are not taking the 3v4. They're going to give a little bit of an advantage over to the Titans. They're going to take this Pyromancer. Give them a little bit of time to get that Phoenix back to healthy.
Yeah, now Ven spawns in about 1 second, so it's going to be a full 5v5, but that left side bird should be spawning here shortly. The Olympus Bolts have essentially thrown their 1 big lead out the window. I mean, gold-wise is still there, of course, but that bird is going to stop spawning those fire minions. About 2 more waves to deal with, and then the Titans are sitting back in a very reasonable spot where as long as they can get to the back line, as long as they can pull some relics, the 5v5 at EFG certainly go in their favor. But it looks like we're going to have a little bit of a little bit of a break here.
Yeah.
Let some relics come back up. Let some ults come back up. If we're talking about relics specifically, the Titans in a much worse spot. You got beads down for pretty much everyone except for Cyclone Spin. Aurora's sitting fine, but you want your carries to have those. And it looks like maybe Lasper could catch out Cyclone, but spot it out, and Cyclone's just going to run it back to base.
Yeah, Cyclone drops the ult just on the minions, wants to clear those out. Phoenix is back. Titan will start healing, and that minion wave is going to be dealt with. One more fire minion wave that it has to deal with. And it looks like it should be able to get to the Phoenix line. It's going to be a little worse for wear. A couple of wards covering over on that side for the Titans to catch Lasper or anybody else on the bolts that might go over there. Right now, Trelly, it's all about the Fire Giant.
I mean, I'm just watching Lazarus, trying to see what the play is here. I was going to say, he clearly wants that Phoenix, but maybe he wants the 1v1 versus Paul. Finally has his opportunity here, and it looks like Paul's just going to be able to sandstorm away, but he can chase as far.
Yeah, there's the control necessary. A little bit of shielding goes a long way. Shell down. But Paul stays alive. Beads are there. There's no way Paul wants to go in. He gets the slow. He has no health to work with. Yeah, he's going to back off. That makes a lot of sense for them, but it gives the Titans a small advantage. Fireman Yunwei's dealt with on left. And now it's going to be slowly but surely a full regroup for the Titans for the first time in what feels like minutes. They've been able to find a full power squad over around the FG pit. Again, is an EFG. Not a massive gold lead for the Bolts, but they have a massive map state advantage. But Trelly, we're getting to the point, especially with EFG. I mean, you know, you're talking health for every Phoenix, every tower that's up that goes onto the Titan. Might be something you can bleed through if you are the Titans and you're able to get this one. So it is a very winnable game.
Yeah, I think we just saw a pretty big loss, though, for the Titans. Aurora's been the target, right? There's a lot of CC, a lot of just lockdown in favor of the Olympus Bolts. This Terra has 4 items at the moment, and only one of them is a survivability relic. That Phantom Shell was just expended, the only one the Tartarus Titans have. So if the call for the Bolts was, hey, let's get that Phantom Shell down, then re-engage onto Aurora, looking a lot easier to do so. But Aurora did just back and buy a full Mantle of Discord, which will help you out in the long run if you're trying to live some of that CC we were just talking about. Not going to help with the wall, but of course there's a lot of CC in favor of the Bolts that if you're trying to kill Aurora and then just win the fight after the fact, that could put a little bit of a damper in your plans. And actually the Tartarus Titans stepping up here. Paul is way past the halfway mark on this map, and it looks like just trying to 1v1 Lasper to throw out as much poke as possible, whereas the rest of the Bolts are grouped as a unit, stepping up over towards this EFG once again.
Really interesting point of the game to me. 6-0, I believe Paul was earlier.
Yep.
And then 1 shutdown, and then a 2nd kill later. Still looks great KDA-wise, but has not gotten a kill since he has died the first time. 3-1-7, 3-1-8. Again, good KDAs there for Layers and Sot. 7-3 for Lazra. He's been putting in some work on this Lancelot throughout this game. We'll see if they're able to maybe open this up. Paul has been a pretty easy, well, not even easy target, just primary target early on in these fights. Trading out his life at least 1 for 1, whether he gets the kill or his team does, doesn't necessarily matter. It's 13-12 Trelly, 36.5 minutes in. Gold is 500 separating them, which means at this point in the game, virtually nothing. I mean, maybe technically, if it's all on one person, that's like a single power pot. But Paul's going to take a little bit of poke. The Bolts are trying to find their advantage for the FG. They're just not able to get it quite yet.
Well, that, once again, was the same exact play from Lasper. This time, though, Paul uses the Kingslayer and the beads instead of the Kingslayer and the shell, and Lasper actually doesn't use the Joust Field to chase that down, so you got Paul's ult down. That's one of their greatest engage tools. If you want to get to the backline, SOT, of course, just blinking to the backline is the best option, but Paul, with that Kingslayer ultimate, with spawning a bunch of Seclons, that was also a big part of their damage. If you see 2nd on the damage charts, if the Bolts want to go in with an advantage, this is their one moment, because that Kingslayer ult's only getting closer to being back on cooldown, and then Paul's 100 seconds off beads. I expect to see this EFG pulled real soon.
It's going to need to be a big dance. Problem, Cyclone Spin's ult. Really, that secure that comes from that burst is big. What a good amount of damage. I mean, again, not great on Baskin. Still a good chunk from the hammer thrown out. Layers is going up into the sky. Who's he going to go dumping in on? It's finding 2, and Barra is just deleted from the map. Layers trying to lead the way. Good stun onto Vin. Sot's chasing down the mid laner, looking for those hits. He's got 3 around him, but it does not matter. It's a double kill for the solo laner. He might lose his life, but he's definitely getting the payment he wants. Baskin goes up in the air, tries to stay alive, but it is a 3rd kill for the Titans. Lasbra is going to make it 4, and if you're talking about an EFG, this one is free free for the Titans, but they might not even need it. Immediate beeline over to mid, and they're going to try to start sieging towers. 40 seconds to work with. Trelly, this might just be the game.
Yeah, they have a minion wave here. They've got the healing, and they have plenty of damage. I think 4v Jake should be enough for the Tartarus Titans to wrap this one up, barring the best stall that we've ever seen in the SPL. The Tartarus Titans, even with Paul's ult down, just had to stall it up. They got Kingslayer back, and that was all they needed. Barracuda got deleted off that Anvil of Dawn.
Phoenix gets credit for the kill onto Aurora. They're down a healer. They're down a solo laner. It's 2 assassins and a mage.
Bear up
a
at 5.
Dream and a few minutes. 5 seconds
Bear has ult.
left for Barra. He's got his ult. He's here. He dashes in. There's going to be the Fields of Love, but does he have enough to stop something? No. Paul just deletes him, and the Titans kill the Titan to get the win.
Yeah, unfortunate for Bear. The beads were down, had Aegis, but you don't want to stop your DPS for a couple of seconds while your Titan's at 1 HP. Had to dash in, drop the Fields of Love, and that's pretty much all you can do at that point. Just a great engage. Use Cyclone Spin, just use the ult, get the dash down. Hey, I'm going to meet you at the end of your dash with an Anvil of Dawn, and we're going to win this game pretty freely. But at this point, it was not free. It took such a long time to get there. It was kind of back and forth. I feel like the Bolts got little advantages, but it wasn't enough to pull that EFG confidently. They could never really bait out Cyclone's ult, and that's what you need. As you mentioned, the best confirm on the map for sure. It's easy to stall out, but you're not going to do it when there's a Vulcan nearby, and the fight didn't look too good either.
Unfortunately, it was an 8-minute EFG dance, and they never got the EFG, right? At that point, it was just the kill. I was a little worried about the Titans' DPS going into it, but obviously did not need to be. They burned through the tower, burned through the Phoenix, burned through the Bolts, and find themselves a win here in game number 1. Things are looking good for them. We'll find out if they can do it again in game number 2 right after this.
Water. Earth. Fire. Momo?
to the SMITE Pro League. Game number 1 goes over to the Tartarus Titans. And over here at the SMITE Pro League, we got to give a shout out to our good friends over at Prime Gaming, the title sponsor of Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League. If you don't already have a Prime membership to get free music, movies, shipping, and even more than that, well, first you should go ahead and get that so you can get all the great things I just mentioned. Then link that over to your Twitch account and get Prime Gaming so you get free games, free content for the games that you're already playing, and a free subscription to your favorite streamer out there that you can use once a month. Every single month, these games and this content is all rotating in and out. Today's the last day that you can get some of the games in Prime Gaming right now, such as Assassin's Creed Origin, pretty good game, and also Shadow of Mordor is also in there. So make sure if you want to get those 2 games, you do it today, because tomorrow they're gone and a whole new rotation of games are out there. Thank you so much to Prime Gaming for being the sponsor of Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League. Jumping in, game number 1, a long-winded battle between the Titans and the Bolts Mifflin. It started out dominant for the Titans. I mean, they were just W-king at speed buff minutes into the game. And then we get to this kind of more team fight style of play, the Olympus Bolts holding out as long as they can, but at the end, just the raw damage output of the Titans is a little bit too much for the Bolts to handle.
Hold on, give me like 2 more seconds.
Okay.
I'm redeeming Assassin's Creed Origins.
Okay, yeah. So Mifflin's going to go ahead and redeem his Prime membership games, which you should also go ahead and do. And we'll talk a little bit more about game number 1 that went there as well. I mean, Tartarus Titans. I mean, we walked into talking about it, saying, you know, this is a team that's got to win it early because you're running triple assassin. You don't really have the front line to get to the late game. They didn't care about that because their damage is just too much.
Yeah, I'd argue now with hindsight, the early game should have belonged a little bit more so to the Olympus Bolts because of how the game started and then having a more standard composition. You get a lot of leverage through the duo lane. Bera's able to go for all these tower sieges, split pushing, generate so much pressure. But the difference is, in the previous set when pressure was established in duo, it spread throughout the entirety of the map. This time, Barracuda kind of limited himself to the duo lane, so it was a tale of 2 games. Is Paul there? If yes, Paul's doing incredibly well. If not, well then maybe if the fight happens in the duo lane, it would favor the Bolts. And then eventually it got to a point where the team fights devolved into one simple binary question. Did somebody get poked on the side of the Olympus Bolts? If yes, they're just gonna die because there's 3 assassins on the side of the Tartarus Titans that all had incredible mobility. And were people getting poked? Absolutely, consistently. Layers was landing these double hammers through walls. We're landing these dunks across the map, at least applying a little bit of pressure so that the rest of his team could follow up, and that's exactly what happens. In the very last engagement around the Fire Giant, Ven loses half of his HP just to a single double tap, loses his beads as well, and Layers said, well, I've done enough here. I don't really need to do anything else. And Paul says, bet? Oh, you applied your damage? Goes in, makes a splash, and makes it look so easy.
And another real big factor that came in there was the healing. Aurora, only 8,000 healing. You don't expect an immense amount on Terrace whenever they're building the full defense, but just the self-sustain that Paul had with that King's Lair, the self-sustain that SOT had in lane, a little too much for the Olympus Bolts out there. And maybe it ends open up a question for the Bolts of how do they combat a team like that whenever we jump into game 2? You know, if the Titans are going to run another triple composition, we'll get to see what they do, at least in game number 2 as you jump into picks and bans. So if we see this triple assassin style of play, this run it down, jam it as hard as you can for the Tartarus Titans, how do the Bolts answer to that?
I think they developed the answer in game 1. They had such a commanding lead on map throughout the early game that I'd argue the Tartarus Titans probably were trying to devise a different draft going into game 2. But because the Olympus Bolts let off the gas a bit, allowed the Tartarus Titans to make the proactive plays on map, they slowly, the Bolts that is, lost their lead until it was the Tartarus Titans who were allowed to leverage their highly aggressive composition. The only difference I would have liked to see the Bolts, if we could go back in time and give a little bit of advice during game 1, was get Barracuda involved in some of these team fights, and if you don't want him rotating out, rotate the game to him, start jamming Gold Furies early on, or just put a little bit more attention on Paul. Because that set, and we had said it during P's and B's, that set was the only place on the map where the Tartarus Titans would be allowed to develop pressure. We thought it was going to be in the duo lane. It had actually gone towards mid, which tended to fare well for the Tartarus Titans. If you could just slow that down a little bit, standard compositions should be able to control early objective to mid-game objective play. But because the game slowed down enough, the Tartarus Titans were able to just really leverage all of that dive potential, and the Olympus Bolts struggled to stop it from happening. Because the Bolt support isn't exactly a peel support. Jake was playing the Amir, wanted to throw out those walls aggressively, wanted to initiate the fights themselves. So when there's 3 separate dives happening on the map, Jake really couldn't be at all of them.
And now we've flown through the first wave of bans. Dodgy, Kabrak, and Guan Yu for the Tartarus Titans. Olympus Bolts take away Yamoja the Morgan and East Set. That leaves Terra open once again for Aurora to pick up this time. Now, unfortunate for Aurora, he was kind of the sacrificial lamb for his team. I believe he ended with a 0-6-11 or 0-6-12 /9 at the end. So
perfect support slash
definitely
line.
died quite a few times out there, but was definitely setting up for his team, getting those heals, getting those ultimates out there for his squad. Now, in this position in Game 1, the Olympus Bolts drafted Cupid and Ymir. We'll see if they do the exact same thing here. And if they're going to run the same style of composition they did last time, why not just run back the dual lane that technically did win out the early game for your team?
I think you can hold off on the Ymir pick at least until third to see whether or not you actually want that wall to deal with some of the dashes on the side of the Tartarus Titans. Pretty unlikely that Terra and Ymir is the selection, so I would like to see the Bolts hold off on that pick at least. Going towards the Cupid, arguably a very good decision. Still one of the highest kill pressure ADCs in the game. Has decent sustain, so these late game team fights where it seems like healing really is back in the meta, Cupid can shore up a little bit of that. And you can at least dictate or try and dictate some of those relic selections for the Tartarus Titans. Instead, Ymir very early on in the draft.
Lancelot.
It's not bad per se. Like Ymir is just fine. He should be able to establish pressure. Still has decent matchup into the Terra. I think it is just incredibly unlikely that the Titans would have taken it for themselves. So you could have got yourself maybe a little bit more of a contentious pick in this slot.
Well, for now, coupling with the Ymir will be Lancelot. A lot of early damage in that assassin, whether you run him in the jungle or go for that more sustained style of play over in the solo lane, which when this god kind of debuted into the SPL, you know, we kind of had that question. Is Lancelot going to be played more in the jungle, more in the solo? We saw a pretty even mix between the two of those, but solo lane was kind of the clear winner amongst that. And I'm going to throw it back over to you here because Freya locked in. We haven't seen her in a while, but an early pickup by her for the Titans.
I mean, Freya, she's just a very, very strong god in general, especially in current meta. The rings are pretty affordable, gives you decent movement speed stack, lifesteal magic items, very strong right now. Doesn't exactly utilize the best magic lifesteal item, which is Bancroft's Claw, but Bancroft's Talon's still pretty decent. Nimble Talon, not so bad. Synergizes well with that style of god as well. But I think it's more so deals with the Ymir very well, especially throughout the early game. Ymir being so immobile, all you need to land is one tick of that pulse and you're stuck to him for the entirety of your stim. You've got decent ways to deal with the Lancelot engage. It's very telegraphed when Lancelot is trying to run you down. He literally spawns a joust field under your feet. Maybe just hop up into the air and ignore him completely with that Valkyrie's discretion. And it's another late game win condition for the Tartarus Titans. It's not the exact same style of play though. Freya does not have that dive potential that we had seen previously from the last draft, but does have enough DPS that maybe you can start looking towards objectives a little bit more so.
Poseidon, the final pick for the Bolts, before we start moving in to the bans for the second wave of those. Camazotz and King Arthur taken out. We saw Baskin going for this more lifesteal style of Arthur early on. I believe it was Soul Leader Glad Shield to kind of start out the build. At least it was able to give him somewhat relevant healing up against the Camazotz. It's hard to match the level of sustain that a Camazotz has, but
it's a post-nerf Soul Eater too.
Yeah.
That wasn't even core on King Arthur when like it was really good.
Yeah, now it's nerfed and it's definitely not as good, but was still at least maintaining a bit. And then Raven banned away, which is interesting to me because we saw solo Raven for a long time, or at least for the short while whenever the Lona's Mask was core and met on him, the full mitigation build. We've been seeing a little bit of jungle Raven kind of pop in. You think that we might be seeing, or well, could have seen
I
that
don't think
at
we're going to
least.
see it here.
No, yeah, we're not going to see it now. You think that maybe could have been at least the thought for the Bolts with that?
Yeah, I think that Raven is probably always going to have at least somewhat of a home in the jungle. Solo Raven's still incredibly strong, not exactly as good as it once was with that full mitigation style build. You can still go towards it, but it's not as good. But with Manicore Spike being so consistent, just connect that root. It's almost like a mini Bumba's Hammer a little bit earlier on as far as the damage output is concerned. I think Raven is a very, very good pick. And it makes perfect sense for the Bolts to ban it out because of how strong Raven is into multiple of the Olympus Bolts God selections. Ymir, Shards of Ice, you're not getting hit by that. Overhead kick every single
This is
time.
a bloody business.
Barring that, you can
Shall
ult
we
it.
get to it
Poseidon's
then?
Kraken, you're not getting hit by that. To Thor's Telegraphed Ultimate, you're not getting hit by that. It just really makes it very difficult for the Olympus Bolts to find an initiation if Raven's on the map, so they decided to take it away. I was going to talk about Susano jungle, but I'm thinking it's gotta be Thanatos, right?
So then where do you throw the Susano? You throw him in the solo lane? Would you rather solo Thanatos or solo Susano in that case?
In my ideal world, I'm
You don't have
probably-
triple assassin on your team.
Well, no, I don't personally, but I'm probably running set solo with Susano mid, assuming that it is Poseidon mid, because he's largely immobile in that he doesn't have an actual dedicated mobility button, which would allow Susano to kind of jam it down. At least that's how the thought process was explained to me by Pagon, who used to take Susano mid himself. Otherwise, I mean, I've seen a bit of Freya mid from the SEC guys. That's pretty strong with Conduit Gem. The clear potential certainly there as well. The Tartarus Titans love to keep you guessing, man. The composition will function very similarly to what we had seen in the previous match, though, in that get to the late game, they're going to just try and poke out some of these squishy targets and then utilize triple assassin to finish off whoever it is that gets poked out.
So in this game, between the Titans and the Bolts, 5 of the roles between the 10
I just
are going to
thought
be
about
filled
it
up
too.
by assassins.
If it is Susano mid, Ven's got to be shaking, right? Like, because
man,
that was the
that-
5 solo set from Pagon onto Ven.
Oh, God, yeah, that was Masters qualifiers week up against the Dragons.
So now
was
the
not a
Titans
fun
are
one.
establishing a mental stack up against the Bolts, in that you got to think about what we're playing, where we're playing it, and also hope that it isn't Susano mid, so that Ven doesn't have to line up against it.
Okay. So we've seen the Vulcan ADC earlier from Cyclone, so maybe we see at least another magical ADC go his way. So Freya maybe to the duo.
I imagine it is.
In all honesty, we'll probably just have to wait to see you get in the game exactly where it all lines out. I personally am still a big fan. I really do miss seeing the old Freya jungle. I doubt we'll ever get to see it again, but I miss those old days, you know, watching some of those players like Suntouch run around the jungle with that pick, just kind of carrying, going crazy. But as far as it's concerned here, we're seeing yet another very squishy style of composition. We'll probably see maybe a little bit of Bruiser depending whichever one of these ends up going into the solo lane. So for the Olympus Bolts, do you think they have some of the answers to be able to deal with composition that the Titans have drafted?
The Olympus Bolts have to take the fight to the Tartarus Titans before these assassins are allowed to get rolling. When there's one assassin on the team, it's really strong, right? You got that early gank potential. It's like, I would consider assassins to be the X factor of a standard Smite composition. But when you have 3 of them, it's 3 gods that need the one shot, and they can't do it until late game, right? So you've got a bit of potential throughout the early to slow down this draft. Expect the Olympus Bolts to try and leverage aggression, namely around this Ymir, because he's got great targets. Thanatos, Susano set don't really have the greatest capacity to deal with a well-placed wall or a decent freeze. You've got the Cripple from Poseidon as follow-up, and then the Kraken should be able to shut down early. The Olympus Bolts have also got very good capacity in their draft to move in towards these objectives. Poseidon has great secure, great burn, and they've got great space control. I just want to see the Bolts do exactly what we saw for the first 5 minutes of Game 1, and then continue that for the next 10 to 15 to 20, however long it takes.
We'll see if the Bolts can bring it back in game number 2. Where is this triple assassin comp from the Tartarus Titans going? Good news is we don't have to wait any longer. Game number 2 with Gore and Trelly.
Now let's figure out where everyone is going to go with him. We tried to guess it last time.
Sot Thanatos solo. Done.
Sot Thanatos solo. That's what we got from Trelly.
Yep.
I'm not going to make a prediction. I'm just going to wait for this screen behind me to flick up and tell me who is where. It's going to be fun to watch, though, either way, Trelly. I think there's a lot of fun. Hey, you nailed it. Sot Thanatos solo. Layers
too
there.
easy.
Susano set mid for Paul. And Cyclone spins on Freya. I don't think anybody's surprised about that one. And rocking the Ruby Rose skin, one of my favorites to play on Thanatos as well. Thor solo over there for Baskin. Again, maybe something that, grand scheme of things, isn't necessarily surprising meta-wise, but it's just interesting seeing Baskin's name on Thor over there, Poseidon in mid. A lot of fun that can be had on both sides.
Yeah, I can tell you that I knew for a fact when I saw Thanatos get locked in that it was going to be SOT, but there's 2
Was that
different
more of your ranked experiences
yes,
coming to
100%,
haunt you?
And I'm going to explain to you. It's not in the good way. It's not in the way you're thinking. I've had Sot play Thanatos solo on my
your team? Oh, no.
And just in. So I hope it's been practicing because, you know, I think against Thor you have a pretty decent time because look at his HP, right? If you ever see that Thor hammer, you just go, okay, 3-1, I'm executing you right now, I want to kill you. However, Bastion does get to the point where if you max the hammer, you get some damage online, you can just clear from a distance, you never really have to engage with the Thanatos, but you're always going to worry about, like, am I in threshold here? Am I, like, if I just take 1 bit of damage, am I going to die? Aurora taking a fair bit of damage, but does have that dash, so should be just fine. I think he's probably going to be playing a lot. You know, I think in the late night rank queues when he's been streaming for 8 hours, it's probably a different mental than in SPL day 1, phase 3.
Yeah.
You're about to 2-0 the Bullets. Better bring it all out, you know?
You're telling me you don't expect Sot to just go into mode here on the Thanatos? He's not planning it. He's doing pretty good in lane right now. This is the other thing that I think makes things interesting, and I kind of want to ask you this, because it feels like there can be a variant of a meta with Thanatos over in solo, because he doesn't use a lot of mana.
Correct.
The cooldown reduction is going to be nice, so that part's helpful. Maybe going a Jotun's first already has that mace built up. Feels like a Roar could come over here and maybe scoop a buff for himself outside of the green buff and just focus on the self-sustain that already exists there for Thanatos.
Yeah, it definitely could be the option. Another thing about the Thanatos solo is the fact that if Lasper comes over, he's got Blink, so you can just say, hey, I'm going to try and fight. Lasper might be just going for the mid camps here. The good Blink to confirm, as I was going to say. Could be looking for the fight, but also double assassin. You just want to get your farm online, get to level 5. At that point, that's when you're absolutely swinging. And also the Mannequin Scepter from SOT is going to start to add up. You see the little 10s ticking away, and that damage does come into play because Sot can just auto the totem a few times, walk away, and Mannequin Scepter will clean it up. The Harpies and even the blue buff, just so much faster farm on this Thanatos comparatively to a blue stone Thor in the early game. At the moment, it's not going to come into play too much, but those are the things that will start to add up farm-wise as the game continues.
It's going to be fun to watch. Also conversations to be had, Hovering Death, Anvil of Dawn, both really good engages. One's a great execute if it happens to come through. Either way, I think will be fun to keep our eyes on the solo laners.
You know what I want to see is
What do you want to see?
I want to see Baskin and SOT both get really low and then ult and then just like do the mid-air dance with each other. Like who's gonna drop first? If you go down, I'm gonna execute you, but if I go down, you're gonna land on me with the Thanatos. So like I just want to see them play chicken there. Baskin playing chicken at the moment, but the beats not gonna be enough. Needed the death sight to connect on that one. Close fight, but getting the beats down from Sot, that's pretty big.
Good, almost enough there for Sot. Baskin's not going to fall for any tricks like that one. No first blood just yet, despite it being a close call twice in a row. Great aggression, a lot of aggression. Admittedly, it's 2 assassins, maybe expected in the solo lane. The other side was interesting. We saw duo lane both getting low, both supports kind of taking a lot of poke. Not uncommon for the very first few levels.
There it is.
And there's the first
I was
blood,
hoping
finally.
I saw him teleport. I didn't want to call it out and cut you off, but I was like, Baskin better teleport and ult, and that is exactly what he did. I saw it on the map. And I was
Sometimes
like,
it's just that easy.
Yep, he got the beats down as a level 4 Thanatos. Easy peasy.
Easy peasy.
I
And
mean,
now he's got a small lead. He's feeling good about himself.
Yeah, and see, this is the issue, right? The Thanatos, if Sot got that Scythe under tower, this is a completely different lane. Sot probably just owns every time he walks up, just, does the Soul Reap into the Scythe, half health Baskin, and says, you can't farm anymore. But now Baskin's got a 2-level lead and a full Soul Eater just got finished. This is a miserable time for Thanatos solo.
Yeah, it feels like things are not going to be going too great for him. We'll have to see when that one rolls through here in a couple of seconds if we maybe get a replay. Either way, Cyclone Spin was the one I was going to highlight. Freya, not too long ago got that buff to some early game play, make things a little bit easier for her. We also just saw Cyclone Spin kind of keeping Bara locked under the tower there. A little bit of aggression in mid. Kraken's now online. Get the Kingslayer on the other side. It feels like we're really starting to set up. We can fact check you. I don't know if we really need to, but we're going to watch the replay. Yeah, we should be able to watch it here of Baskin getting that first blood.
He teleported immediately, ulted, and just sent
the
it.
dunk's a little short, but who cares? He got a wall. Yeah, so that one, I mean, you called it. Just what you want there. Nothing fancy. He just dropped the kit and was able to find the kill. And so I guess the better question is, now with the Soul Eater, you mentioned it falling behind. You get the Jotuns on the other side. You can still get your blue buff. Although walled away right here, going up into the air. Where's the stun? Where is Sot going to focus? It seems like he's just going to go back under his own tower. Gets stunned out immediately. Double tap from the hammer. A lot of damage. And that kind of leads into the question I wanted to ask. How bad is this lane going to be now for him?
Yeah, it doesn't look good. Sot has to hold on to those beats. It's the complete opposite of what I highlighted early on, where you can just walk up. Doesn't have the beats now, so actually he's probably dead, but Layers comes out to help out.
Yeah, Frozen healing, doing as much as he can up into the sky. Goes one, dunk down on 2. The silence is going to be there to catch them off, but they kill off Jake. So you lose first blood, but you stop the ganks in their tracks. Get yourself a kill on your solo laner.
Yeah, Layers, ever the veteran here, realized pretty much immediately that Sot was not going to have a good time in lane without a kill, without a gank, some sort of help to alleviate some of that pressure. Now, Baskin didn't fall, still going to be sitting just fine, but SOT getting credit for that kill is going to help out. You're going to have a lot easier time clearing. As long as the death sites are connecting, you shouldn't be getting soloed anymore, right? As long as you're not getting 100 to 0'd off of Anvil of Dawn, which is certainly a possibility when your beads and ult are down, but at the moment, SOT is holding on to all of those things. I think that gank was absolutely massive there. For the Tartarus Titans and SOT specifically, you're going full damage Santos, you can't afford to fall behind.
We'll see. I mean, at this point, it's, you know, a little bit of experience. First blood definitely going to still be lending its way towards Baskin. If that continues, or maybe even worse, grows, that's where things maybe get a little more problematic for them. It's been quiet in the mid lane, which has been a little interesting. Not a lot from Susano, not a lot from the set. The one that surprises me the most, not a lot from the Poseidon so far. Still a lot of focus on the right side of the map. Good wall from Jake, but it's not going to result in much. Did you expect anything? I mean, with 2 assassins in mid, it feels like that could be a good opportunity to maybe get some explosive plays going for him.
Yeah, it's certainly a decent opportunity to get aggressive, as SOT is going to just confirm the blue buff there. But Layers has Blink, and Paul is fantastic within melee range. Barracuda is
Just gone.
just absolutely eviscerated there. Layers making quick work and some good damage from Cyclone Spin. Enough to pick up the second kill for the Tartarus Titans. Trying to kill a level 2 ultimate Poseidon, I don't think it's going to be the option for the double assassin squad because you have to get in melee range and you almost have to group up together to do that damage. So Ben staying really far back and just saying, hey, if you go in, I've got a Doom Orb level 9, 2 points in my old Kraken. That's going to pretty much one-shot you both if you do to try to group up on that. And still, SOT getting absolutely chunked by those double taps. You got to hold on to those beads, though. If he ever uses the beads, he just gets soloed by the ult every single time.
Luckily, you know, Thanatos' passive plays a little bit of a role here. You have to be careful with what you do, though. Baskin, he's just playing bodyguard. He's guarding the minion wave and is not, as far as I can tell, going to go for anything more than that. But is more than happy to take the advantage and control the lane as heavily as they are. Roar got out a little bit in the jungle. Hardly any damage dealt to him. I mean, honestly, he not only is he going to heal that back up in an instant, feels like none happened at the time.
I think Aurora was prepping for the Kraken, and then the second that Ven saw that ult pop, he's like, there's no way I even do half health to this guy, so we're going to take that ult, and we're just going to back off, which could be the win they were looking for, right? You get that ult down, now that you don't have to worry about that big team-wide healing whenever you're grouped up, and maybe Aurora's a better target later on for the next Kraken. You got some time before you really have to make that call. But I like that Awesome Jake is sitting around Ven, because as you highlighted, even though the Kraken is always there for peel, Poseidon's pretty easy for a double assassin squad to try and kill out. And as long as Ymir's there for peel, they're like, wait, Layers doesn't even want to get near Jake. You just, no beads available, you get stunned, you get Kraken, you are gone.
It was interesting to see this Poseidon coming back in, right? It was played a good little bit, actually by vote more than anybody.
Oh, yeah.
Relatively recently. Rotationary power has always been the conversation, whether it's buff, nerf, things like that. Almost always comes into play. Thrown in mid here for Vin. And I was going to ask you about it until I kind of thought a little bit more about it, which is that, you know, oh man, we've been seeing so much flat pin from mages. It's Poseidon. Of course he's going to go for a Doom Orb. That move speed just feels helpful for him. But I guess that does open up a different question to you. Not necessarily about itemization, but maybe more so about what you expect out of Vin. Does this help him get online a little bit earlier? We see a lot more rotation. You know, it's survivability against 2 assassins, but does it give him any kill potential?
I think he's got kill potential throughout the whole game just because there's 4 squishies on the opposition, right? As long as you have Kraken, you have a decent opportunity to just 100 to 0 SOT, Layers, or Paul. And if Cyclone's ult's down, that's another kill potential. That's some more kill potential as well. It really does depend exactly how Ven wants to itemize. I imagine you're either going Divine Ruin next item or Toxic Blade, and both of those items will tell me exactly what Ven wants to do this game. Are you going for the movement speed auto attack build? Are you going full burst, my Krakens better be landing and I better be killing? Awesome Jake with a beautiful wall there to make sure that Layers can't engage, and that could just be where this fight ends. The Gold Fury is up, but again, Kraken on the map, not going to be easy to outburst that one.
This is going to be an interesting potential for the Bolts. Kind of swap from where it was last time around, right? Vulcan existed in the game, big, powerful ult. Objectives feels like it was the Titans' game throughout that one, whether or not they really had the control for it. If an ult came down from Cyclone, it could have just changed everything. The same thing, but now it's Vin in that conversation, right? Kraken, if it's up and available, you don't know if you're going to have that fight. Jake gets aggressive layers, is caught out here, wall's good, but no follow-up damage from Baskin or Jake. Layers manages to get out alive, silence good from Sot. They knock up Jake, they get a kill on the gank. Now up into the sky goes the Thanatos, dunking down is Baskin. Is he going to be able to escape? Stun not good from Sot, the damage is not there. Instead, it's Lasbra, it's Vin coming in for the assist. They go 1 for 1, but it's solo for support.
Yeah, and it looks like Cyclone Spin did make the rotation over. Aurora is able to get Lasbra off the horse, but I think that's where the chase is going to end. You've got your ADC here. You might as well try and pull something, but the Pyromancer is not going to be what the option is. And we already know Barracuda was never going to leave lane, so there's not going to be any more grouping. A Greater Scorpion will be the prize that Cyclone Spin wants. And if Layers got over here soon, maybe a tier 1 tower to look at, but it doesn't look like Pyromancer is any closer to being down than I thought, and back over to duo lane they go. So a good answer back. I really thought Basket might try to dive Layers there, but knew that the Susanoo had Blink available, and you're never hitting that Thor ult unless you're predicting the Blink, and that's a game that no one's ever winning at that point. You're diving under a tier 2 tower, and probably a smart call just to go for the confirmed gank and look for the kill after the fact. So good play, and now there's a level 13 Thor and Poseidon on the map. XP looking pretty solid for the Olympus Bolts.
Yeah, you had mentioned it when it was 1 level for Saab, but how you didn't want him to fall behind anymore. Now it's 2 levels, and again, while that number is still relatively small, it feels like a lot in-game, right? You feel what 2 levels is like whenever you're hit by any of those abilities. Something you might need to be worried about, especially with the Bolts getting as aggressive on the map. You know, we were talking a lot about it last game. No huge gold leads that went either way. And it's still not massive, only a little over 1,000 gold in favor of the Bolts as of right now. If they can get this kill onto Paul in mid, that might be all they need. There's a good shell, great wall, good Kraken, and the kill onto the mid laner in the Titans. Vin is able to escape, but up into the air, there's the Thanatos. Drops down, goes 1 for 1, is able to find a kill back for his team. The fight continues, though. Aurora gets all 4 of the Bolts that are left in the ult. No one's there to capitalize on it. They've all rotated in, and it's going to be the engage from Baskin. Sot burned down and killed off by the opposing solo laner. Jake is low. Aurora is chasing. Cyclone gets the kill. But will they be able to get out of here? Good stun, good engage, good wall, good damage, and it's just going back
trade after
and
trade.
forth. It's 3 for 3, and at this point, I think everybody just wants out.
I mean, I just had my eye on that Anvil of Dawn cooldown. I was waiting to see when Baskin was going to go up to the sky, but it was just the Titans always had the answer back. I mean, first SOT goes in, gets the kill on the Ven because Paul went down to the Kraken. He says, wait, you don't have Kraken? I'm going to pick up that kill easily. Then the regank opportunity, Aurora hits that big ult, but no one really is able to chase anything down. And then unfortunately, everyone has started getting stuck 1 after 1. So a total wash. I mean, it was pretty even. It really just depends on what the farm after the fact looks like. And it looks like Layers was heading over to left to see if Barracuda would step up for this wave. But more importantly, has been picking up this Indra Scepter. Layers has been the one to pick it up every single time. The Susanoo is getting the benefits of that extra damage. And now, a grouping at the gold for only Awesome Jake is going to step up here. And it might be too little too late.
That Fury is burning incredibly fast. Not secured yet.
Jake said nope.
Yeah.
I can't go with that.
I like that call, right? Just, you know what? It's not worth the effort. Gonna just go ahead and fall back. I'm probably just die if you're Ymir there anyway. And instead they go for a trade that they've gone for in the past, not too uncommon. Pyromancer traded out for that Gold Fury, so the Bolts still maintain about 1,400 gold going in their favor, plus a couple of kills that they have in their advantage. What a wild fight in mid, though. I mean, Baskin and Barra stay alive, and it looks like it might just happen again. Jake trying to lead the way. Aurora is the one who's caught out. There's going to be a little bit of a root. Nice hammer from Baskin. But it feels like, and should be, a wash.
Lasper ulted out there as well, a little bit worried about some possible chase down. Either way, just a decent opportunity for Baskin to get some more farm. The wave's pushing up with the Trebuchet and trying to play off of the fact that there's no objective zone. I mean, gold goes down to the Titans. The Bolts are able to grab that Pyromancer and make sure that the gold lead still stays in their favor. And I still haven't seen too much from Barracuda, but that's kind of what you expect on a Hunter, right? He's okay with just sitting back and saying, I'm going to go to level 20 again, same thing as last time. I made 1 rotation to mid, It was fine. You know, like, I did my thing. I hit some auto attacks, and now I'm going back to the farm game. And that's what I've come to expect from this set. Vera does not want to fight until he's got like 3, 4 items online. The fact that he's got a kill and an assist, that's enough for me. I think he's done his job.
He's been able to do exactly what he needs. You're set. Well, actually, Paul is set, but you know,
Oh, boy,
either way. That one was bad.
I don't know if it was bad. It caught me off guard. It was like a gut
No,
punch.
I'm pretty sure it was bad too. I think it might have just been both. It was an off guard bad everything. Either way, we'll see.
He's being so sneaky. we got a little sneaky.
It's been
Thanatos.
so long since I've seen someone just sit in the mist. He's still there, dude.
I want to know who walks up that SOT wants to fight, because I don't imagine this 1v1 with Lasberg goes that well, assuming
Definitely
that
not
the ults
Baskin.
are up. Definitely not Baskin. He's
Maybe
been
Vin?
bullying pretty
Probably
much
not
everyone.
Vin.
I mean, he's clearly looking for Lasberg here. Let's see. This is what he's been waiting for. Let's see how good it goes. That was it, and Ven just kills Paul.
Yeah, so, okay, while watching the Thanatos not accomplish what he wants, instead in mid, everything goes wrong. Sot's in the air, though, and at least he's going to stay alive. Paul taken down 1-2-0 for the set in mid. It does not feel like the Assassins this time around have got on the ground running. But this is not too dissimilar, at least, from the way the game was going for the Bolts last time around. Much better gold lead this
Right.
time than in game number 1. But it still essentially got to late game. They had a control. They had a massive map advantage. And then it just kind of crumbled through their hands in one team fight. So maybe that's all the Titans needed. Granted, the experience was a lot closer there. 3 levels in Solar, 2 here that you see in mid. And you know what? With the Bolts backing away, as long as Aurora doesn't do anything crazy cheeky here, I think we can go ahead and take a peek and see how Paul just died there in mid. I have a sneaking suspicion that Vin, based on that cooldown, probably used the Kraken.
It was just walling the Kraken. It's got to be, right? Oh. Yeah, that was pretty much it. Paul tried, but you know, I think he's been,
sometimes it's just that easy. You're 2 for 2 on the predictions.
I
of,
mean,
yeah,
he's
this
just
is
been
what it
going
has to be.
shell, which unfortunately does not save you from a
Yeah.
Kraken. You just die. I get the one to live against these auto attackers, but sometimes those Krakens hit, and you're like, I kinda wish I had Aegis here.
Yeah, he was like, look, he's looking. If you watch Worlds like finals Poseidons, those just hit different.
Yeah.
In the sense that they just don't seem to hit for some reason.
Yeah.
Almost always off the mark with those Krakens. Unfortunately, you're getting regular season Poseidon, and so these are homing in on Paul so far. I think that's 2 for 2. Both
Magnetized
deaths
Krakens, if
have
you
been to
will.
those. That's frightening to think about.
They just can't miss. And I mean, when you got Baskin around, you shouldn't be missing him.
Yeah.
He's just been hitting everything.
You've got a freeze for setup. You've got walls for setup. You've got a dunk for setup. You've got Ho Yi stun if it happens for setup.
And lots of slows as well. just
Slows.
mixed in there. So, yeah, it should be just fine if you're playing off of that burst damage. And it looks like Oni Fury should be spawning in a little bit. And that's what both of these teams are trying to fight for. Layer's smart to grab the oracles ahead of time, just make sure that all the vision on this side of the map stays in the Titans' favor. I want to see, I mean, all my eyes are on Baskin, right? Wherever that Anvil of Dawn is, that's where the Olympus Bolts want to get active. Of course, just Krakening is all well and good. Without setup, I don't think it's that easy to confirm. You know, just running in a different direction right when the Kraken gets dropped is usually easy enough to juke it out. So as long as we're following the facilitators on the Bolts, they are the ones in control until the Tartarus Titans say they're not.
Yeah, this is going to be the question. Last time around, it was a very easy field for them, I think, or a lot easier, I should say, field for them to say, no, you don't have the control here. Late game, I mean, you got to talk about Assassins, right? Execute's available, so people like Jake may be a little bit easier to kill off because you don't have to get through all of that health bar. Freya has been kind of easy to glance over because it's Freya, and they're doing Freya things right now, which is not do much other than farm. Wait, Sot's in the air, though. Yeah, I didn't think anything was going to come of that. They're going to fall back. Seems like the Bolts wanted to maybe try and get a cheeky pick under the tier 2 in right. But that Freya, once we start seeing Cyclone rotate, which we're starting to see already, right-hand side of the map under the tier 2, that's a lot of damage that's just not been on the board until now.
Yep, that is true, and it looks like Paul has just been able to walk up the trebuchet down mid as the Bolts are going to make that Pyromancer pull. Remember, last time the Tartarus Titans got gold when that was happening. This time around, the Bolts get a free objective, and now they're able to rotate over towards that Oni Fury, get some vision down, and possibly go for a pull. Kraken is available, but walling off double, get both the beads, and now SOT's in some trouble.
Yeah, what a wall from Jake. Nice blink, though. Sot did not get put into combat, gets over the wall. Aurora's going to find the dash away. Wall good from Baskin. Kraken onto Aurora. Just deleted from the map. The Terra is gone. Layers throws an ult out there. Gets a 4-man knockup. But there's no follow-up. No damage to burn through the bolts, and they take that as a wide open 20 minutes, 47 seconds, starting up the FG.
Yeah, they don't have too much burst, but remember, double beads down for Layers and SOT while Anvil of Dawn is up. Baskin's here, and I think SOT is just going to have to go into the air to get away from that.
Yeah, and well-timed as well, right? If that's a second later, he's just dead. Isn't going to be able to re-engage. That's one actual KO, one TKO for the bolts. Fire Giant started back up. Cyclone Spin in the neighborhood. Same thing with Layers, same thing with Paul. Damage thrown out towards Jake. He's still taking the FG. Paul trying to find a pick in the back. Not going to be able to get anybody here. But it was enough to force the bolts to fall away. They take the objective and try to start it. Not able to find anything necessarily.
But now
massive
the
for the
Titans
team.
might try to go for
Can
a
they pull it
repull
here?
here. They know that they've got some low health bars, but they also know the bolts are going to have to run away. It looks like more of a pick opportunity than anything. Because Layers doesn't want to tank this up any longer. And if you look at the, once again, all three assassins, no beats for well over 85 seconds. And the bolts have a very clear engage, right? Awesome Jake can just wall freeze. Of course, Baskin's been hitting those walls as well, and Kraken's already back up at this point, so probably a good opportunity to try and find some burst. Anyone except for Cyclone Spin, I mean, they don't have access to Aegis, so once that Kraken lands off a stun, they are getting 100 to 0'd for sure. And it looks like that's going to be the Olympus Bolts plan, looking towards this Fire Giant. They're going to pull once again, and Cyclone Spin's dancing between wards.
All right, now Cyclone is living Zapman's current dream, right? A fourth ring on the hand, and is rocking it, so the damage output should be there pretty soon. Always been an interesting conversation around those in terms of the build. Layers locked down, burned out the Kraken. Good Barra credit for the kill, but just deleted. Baskin uses that dunk to re-engage on the FG. Sot, Aurora, Cyclone, Paul, all in the neighborhood, but Sot gets called out,
Oh,
gets
the
taken
double!
down, but no! Just into the air in time, the bolts. Gonna TKO him one more time, but not get the actual kill. Cyclone out shots, doesn't have a lot of disengage. Beads, Aegis still up. Ult available, throws out some damage, is going for Venenu. Now lands frozen, doesn't have anything to work with, and it's a double kill for Lasbra. 3 for none, and the bolts are looking at a free Fire Giant.
Yeah, still some low HP bars, and I don't think they want to go up against the Kingslayer, so they'll back at a full reset and then pull that Fire Giant. Now it's time for get the last minute vision down. If Paul wanted to go for a steal, you can get set up for it, maybe get some farm in the meantime. It looks like Layers does have access to Typhoon and is on his way back to the FG, but the bolts are
Aurora's gonna
staying group as
respond
5. They've got some time here. They can definitely look for some sort of play, but it looks like maybe they just go for Oni Fury and say, hey, good luck. If Layers steals it, he steals it. And no, I think that's the call. Titans, pull that Oni Fury. Everyone else, we're going to let this Fire Giant go down.
Yeah, I was wondering with Aurora respawning, I mean, time was definitely still against them. It doesn't seem like they're going to do too much to try and deal with this. Oni Fury's going to go down. That should give the confidence to the bolts to secure this one. All 5 members this time get this FG. But again, flashbacks to game number 1. 4 of them got the first Fire Giant last time. And there were some good defenses, good team fights from the Titans a little bit later on that worked things in their favor. Tier 2 on right is the main focus. Looks like they should be able to continue this Oni Fury wave. It's only going to do so much to slow down the bolts here as they aggress into the right side Phoenix right now. Just Cyclone Spin, soon the rest of the Titans going to be joining for the defense.
Yeah, they've got the CC, and it looks like Aurora is trying to clear some of these minions out, and the bolts are going to respect that. Lasber's in mid, and a decent whoop. Is going to make sure that Cyclone's got to go up for the high. He doesn't have beats, though.
That's an Aegis used just to stay alive. Up into the sky goes Baskin. Does he go in for Cyclone Spin? They get rid of Sot. The dunk isn't going to be good enough. He does get the beads, though, and is going to find a lot of utility from them. Low health bars from the bolts, but they got the FG ticking for them, helping them heal back up. Phoenix is the target for Barra, and the rest of the Titans force back. They've got the fountain heals in their favor, but Relics, a desolate situation for the Titans right now.
Yeah, losing this Phoenix rather wouldn't be the end of the world. It is the easiest to defend here for the Titans, so they are going to let that one go despite some low health bars, as you mentioned. Still a ton of towers for the Olympus Bolts to cut through, and remember, that's going to push this gold lead even further. The tier 1 and left not going to be the biggest deal. These tier 2s, however, are really going to put some extra gold in the pockets of the Olympus Bolts, and after they spend that, they're going to be looking real solid to just run down the rest of this game. Good stun on the Paul, another stun, does have the Whirlpool, and that should be the end of set.
Yeah, Avon, again, about as easy as they wrote it. There's no beads, the shell's only going to do so much for you. You're not getting out of there. Baskin up into the air. The Bolts want to push us to game number 3. They already took the right side Phoenix. They're going to take mid. They're not going to go for the end just yet. They want to push us the distance here in day number 1, at least trying to make sure that they don't go down too early. And from the turnaround, I mean, look, as far as things go, the laning phase is the King Arthur versus the laning phase here on Thor for Baskin has definitely been a noticeable turnaround. 2-0 and 8 right now. Undying, 8 assists. I mean, those dunks, the hammers, the walls, every single part of it has been intact.
Yeah, can I just say, if it's between watching like hybrid or full damage assassins in the solo lane and then like, you know, Sov, Glad Shield Warriors, I'll take this. This has been extremely exciting just watching where all the globals are coming from. You never know when everyone's safe. Baskin's like hammering into stuns, confirming the freeze for Jake, and then a Kraken underneath. They just have a ton of CC and they've been chaining it incredibly well. The Fire Giant buff will be running out in about 1:20, so they have some time to run down the left side of the map, and more specifically, SOT trying to get to level 20 and get that Hidden Blade. It would be a massive spike for this Thanatos. It was, for a while, Baskin was able to just completely bully, but if full damage Thanatos late game, if Baskin ever, you know, doesn't have his stun or hammer available, there's still some opportunity there to find just any sort of solo kill once that Hidden Blade gets online. So you're not going to be able to hammer in as freely when there's more damage to be had. There's no Aegis available. You know, Baskin is going to have to juke out that execute, something like that. Could come into play pretty heavily. But now the Tartarus Titans are able to sit back in base. The Phoenix has been pinged. They are not going to defend Tier 1. They are not going to defend Tier 2. Honestly, they got to hold out for 30 seconds. That Fire Giant follows off, and maybe they'll be looking a little bit better after that.
30 seconds. Admittedly, they're going to have their beats back, so that's going to be a big win for the Titans. Sot has to back a little quicker, I think, to get there in time. Phoenix is the target for the Bolts. 2 already down. Minions in right are going to be meeting at about the mid line of scrimmage. Meanwhile, in mid, they've got the Fire Minions ready for him. Lasbra is the target for Layers. Layers is going in for the knockup. Layers got the kill, and Sot with the assist. They're able to take down the jungler, and now Baskin's up in the air. They're looking for the retreat here, but can they get far enough away? Wall just a little shy there for Baskin, and turns of an engage on 2 Layers. But they get the repel they needed. Unfortunately, Trelly, they still lose the left Phoenix. So a great play by the Bolts to take down all 3 birds.
Yeah, and the Bolts are done. Take a look at this. Baskin, 1 wall here. Could mean the Kraken does get dropped, but unfortunately wall off the mark, so that means Ven can't look to get more active. And 3 birds down. That's a much different situation than before. I mean, if they keep that left Phoenix, maybe they've got an easier time. They've got some mobile assassins who can defend right, can defend mid, and still get to EFG on time. It's not going to quite be EFG if this stalls out for about 1:30. Will turn into EFG. Either way, 3 Phoenixes down. You're almost at the
a lot harder.
Yeah, you're almost at the point of no return. You don't have too many people that can clear the wave that quickly and make it over towards Fire Giants. So for the Tartarus Titans, the play's simple. There is no play. You sit under your Titan and you wait. You can win a fight there, maybe, but I don't imagine you're able to push out all these waves and make it back to Fire Giant in time. It's just way too many Fire Minions to clear out.
Fire Giant respawning, as we can see right here. Baskin, Jake going for the zone. Bolts are on it immediately. You had mentioned it could become EFG if they stalled it for a minute. They're not stalling whatsoever. They're just going to try to take this one as it is, get the buff on all 5. They're going to do so, no problem. Sot has to be careful here. The war wall just a little low. Stun from a roar just to ward off the Bolts. But Fire Minions plus Fire Giant should be spelling a quick end to this weakened Phoenix in right. Soon to be respawned weakened Phoenix in mid.
Look at this grouping.
expect the
They're
Bolts to
going
get
to
this.
try and fight this, but how do they go in at this point? Aurora's trying to split up what he can, but a good wall is going to make him get out, actually.
Paul's going for Lasbra deep in the jungle. Isn't able to find it. There's going to be the engage. Knockup's not going to hit on Barra, but the damage is there. Up into the sky goes Sot, and they are looking for the carry. There's the execute range, and there's the kill from Sot, but the Kraken matches and meets and kills the solo laner. Paul tries to dive deep. Layers tries to dive deep, but the walls are good. The sustain, the tanking is too much from the Bolts, and it's only going to be the 1-for-1 carry for solo, which might slow down a little bit of this Phoenix siege. It also might open up the door. The Bolts do not care about the Phoenix. They just want the kill. Cyclone trying to get out of here, trying to stay alive. Great whoop, but what else can you do? The Aegis used, the beads used, just trying to stay alive, and he's able to do so successfully. The damage, it's
Oh my
there, and he
gosh!
finds Baskin. Layers finds Venenu, trades out his life, but Lasbra is just a couple of hits away. That is going to be what could be the 5-man pickup. It's just one tanky Ymir, Paul, Aurora, Cyclone working to save it. They keep the Phoenix alive. They're looking for the deicide. Jake is doing nothing if not buying time right now, and is just going to wipe to respawn with his team.
That was really smart, actually. They were not killing him for a reason. They wanted to stagger those timers as much as possible. Jake had to kill himself there, or else he's going to respawn 30 seconds after his teammates, and there's no way they can do anything. So smart call just to die as quick as you can. But Cyclone Spin with the hot steps and the rest of his team staying alive. That would have been a massive win for them if, of course, there weren't 2 birds down and they still lost the mid-Phoenix in the process. Still huge, still keeps their fight alive, and they're able to probably set up a little bit of a defense at the next Fire Giant, but still, Cyclone Spin juking the wall, getting the double whoop, and just pumping out damage. This is sort of what I was talking about. Baskin doesn't really have a survivability relic in that aspect. You got the beads, but after you've hammered in and you've walled and it's missed, you just got to sit there and juke around until your movement's back up, and Cyclone's a late game, full slotted Freya. He's going to be winning that 1v1 every time.
Yeah, the only thing you're missing at this point is maybe a glyph for your Bancroft's Talon. Like, you are set. Well, again, Paul
Paul's
is set. But you are pretty well
You
off.
are locked in.
If you get this Bancroft's Claw, something we were talking about a little bit earlier. Mifflin, I think, mentioned it on the desk. Plus, now an upgrade to the beads to get some of that cooldown back in your favor. Ward coverage good for both teams, or is about to be when they drop what's in their inventory. Fire minions doing their work, keeping things going. Right side's clean, so the Titans don't have to worry about that. Mid did fall down again during that engagement. They had to opt for something, right? And it was the deicide over the Phoenix. They get left back. Cyclone's clearing the last fire minions there. Kelly, I think we're starting to look at an EFG fight coming here in the last couple of seconds, last couple of minutes, next couple of minutes, how about? Whoever wins that fight, unless it goes, 3 for 3 or something like that, feels like it could end up being the game. I mean, the map state for the Bolts is just, hey, can you get the EFG? You probably win.
Yeah.
The Titans aren't in a terrible position. I mean, last time they won from something very similar.
I would say the game has only been going in favor of the Titans for the past couple minutes at this point, because you get your left side Phoenix up. That's key. There is a Trebuchet that could be sent out for the Bolts. I think they're going to wait until EFG spawns in to send it. But we already highlighted how much mobility these assassins have. You could send Paul very easily towards that mid lane, and he could still throw a set clone, teleport in, and be at EFG in seconds. So having that one wave to deal with is a lot easier than 3 waves. And now the Olympus Bolts are trying to set up some form of a gank. Paul knows this. He's dropping his clones for ward coverage. He's like, hey, is anyone around? They are not going to clear this wave for good reason. One step out and Aurora could be in trouble, and that's going to be the wall, but he's able to dash in and engage here.
Yeah, he wants this fight. He goes forward. There's the Kraken. He's melted, but he got the ult on members of the Bolts. Baskin's up in the air. Sot is as well. Who's going to come crashing down first? Sot lands. Baskin falls back. The team does not want to go in. Their support missing. Might be the wide opening the Bolts need. Fire Giant back in 30 seconds. Titans running away. But the Bolts are following.
They are trying to go in for this right
They
side
go for the Phoenix.
Yeah, they're not gonna care the CFG now. It's gonna be
minions.
you've lost your global ult for the Thanatos, but Layers and Paul still do a ton of damage. This bird though falling down quick.
Yeah, what can they do here to try and stop this? Minions are there, backdoor protection stripped, but there's a lot of damage coming out from Cyclone's been good wall from Jake, keeps them alive as well as Bara. But it does force them to fall back. Fire minions in mid, but just barely saved. Sot is going to stop those. Last wave right here at where their tier 2 used to stand. With that, they're going to have all 3 of their Phoenixes back. Weakened, but back.
That's got to be gone, right? There's no way Layers can make it in time. It looks like
Paul?
the play is to try and go in, but a little too little, too late. You got to back up, and it looks like just playing retreat here. The Olympus Bolts are going to zoom out. SOT trying to catch someone, anyone. And it looks like Baskin is going to go up just to make sure that the rest of his team gets out. Great play, and now the Olympus Bolts get enhanced Fire Giant. Goes down to get the ult, but now, I was going to say, would Saw chase that one down? Probably saw that Jake was there. So now you've gotten Paul's ult down, SOT's ult down. Baskin, well, it'll be back up soon, and I think that is going to be the call. Send down that Trebuchet, split up the map as much as you can, and by then, when Baskin's anvil have done is back up, then you could start to look at breaking the base one more time for the Bolts.
Nobody touched the Trebuchet. Fury looked like it was going to be the call.
Oh, the old
Misplay.
misgank.
Might have seen or should have seen a roar at the minimum there. Jake might know where they're at. Walks into the mist, gets the vision, goes for the freeze, but they're burning this Ymir. They're trying to get him down quickly, but they don't get him quickly enough. Sot gets his health bar taken out, has to fall back to stay alive. Jake barely lives, holds on with nothing in the health bar, but it's enough. Blink forward from Sot. He finds one, and they find two. They get to Venenu. The Kraken, not good enough here. Paul chases down Barra. They're looking for the kill, and they're trying to run him down. The Assassins putting in the work. Phoenix right there should keep Barra alive. No, Set is not going to hold back. Paul gets the kill. It's a 3-man wipe from the Bolts. But what can the Titans do with this?
Basket's in the sky. Is he going to come back down?
No way he goes in.
I was about to say, trying to find something. The Titans hidden in the mist. We're able to get 3 picks, but what do they do after the fact? EFG still up on Lasbra and Baskin. They don't really have minions pushed up. They're essentially just going to run this down without minions. And it's up to Baskin and Lasbra to try and keep the bird alive.
30 seconds before Vin, Jake are back a little longer, about 10 more until Barra. They're slow rolling these towers.
Wow.
Last time around it was a lot easier. You mentioned it. The minion wave was there for them in game number 1. Not here in game 2. What feels like it could have been a game-ending play just strips EFG, which, by the way, that's a massive deal, but gets rid of the EFG on 3. Stalls out the game a little bit longer. Phoenixes, they're doing fine. Well, as fine as they can for the Titans right now. They get a Gold Fury. It's still 7,000 in favor of the Bolts, but we're starting to get into win the fight, win the game territory. If you can get an EFG around your belt, usually.
I mean, if the Titans come back and win this, I'm just going to be sad they didn't win off that play. You know,
Yeah.
like they're probably just going to win a fight, go in and end.
That felt like such a game-ending play.
That felt like the game-ending play because Aurora walked up to the wave, you know, and that was the game-ending play where Aurora got picked, and then they were able to hold the base. The Bolts couldn't quite kill the Titan. They got a bunch of Phoenixes down and were looking good, and then the Titans come back in such a big way. But they're in a better spot than they've been looking for quite some time because once again, all 3 Phoenixes are up. You got EFG on Lasbra and Baskin, which is not enough to warrant the Olympus Bolts grouping up and pushing just yet. And they've got a bunch of time to get upgraded relics, anything else they need, some power pots, maybe some 3Ks. Everyone is in position to just be firing on all cylinders. They're going to group up for this EFG fight, and I mean, it might just be pick or be picked at this point. Are the Bolts now going to group up in the mist and try and find another one? We'll have to see if the Titans fall for that play.
There's some pun to be made. Crouching Titan, hidden something. I just don't know what the something is.
I've
been trying to work with
I
it.
went instead of like the ninjas hidden in the mist. I went with the Titans hidden in the mist.
Yeah, I like that.
It was on the fly. You
Yeah.
know? I tried.
We gotta, you gotta workshop. Like, those kinds of things we gotta be more prepared for. That's on us.
After this set, we'll go into the green room and
We're
we'll
gonna have a pun for every single
team if they make a play like that.
Oh, we'll see. Maybe what we can come up with. Guys, I'm gonna give you a hint. We're not gonna do it.
No, that's not gonna happen.
Plays like that. I don't want to call them 1 in a million. Definitely a little more common than that, but not the most common play you're going to see in Smite. Jake grouping up, the rest of the team stripping the jungle on the right-hand side for the Bolts, trying to get a couple of invades going for them. Titans push up on the left. They've got some minions going for them over there, which is going to be helpful in the event they can win any other fights here.
We are officially all full build. That is something I had to call out.
Oh, yeah,
Aurora
good
just finished Mantle of Discord. Like, SOT's buying elixirs, and then Aurora's like, guys, I finally have my 6th item. Like, that is something that you gotta love. You know, I'm happy for Aurora. He's gonna be a little bit tankier in these fights, so that's gonna be the last like itemization change that'll probably be made, unless some of these players decide to pivot out of these builds. But the 3K elixir on Thanatos, rather than upgrading for like the temporal beads, extra CDR, the SpongeBob blink, as Dave says, to get that fire trail, just going to get the elixir, trying to do as much damage as possible. And already, check out the Bolts. They're looking in the jungle, trying to find out if Aurora or anyone's going to walk up, wall freeze, just try and find a pick off the Kraken.
Yeah.
This would be the time, and they're walking. Oh, it looks like right as they were all about to walk up, the Bolts backed up towards EFG.
Well, you have to think that's how they got the last EFG, was just Aurora stepped up, they stun Aurora, Aurora gets Kraken, Aurora's dead. And that's as easy as that. The rest of them didn't want to fight. Now, though, it's going to be a little more complicated of an issue. Ult's up for everybody in the game. Kraken, do you use it as a secure? Do you use it as a delete button? Probably the delete button. But who can you stall out? I mean, in moments like this, Paul was going deep looking for picks, found Lasbra alone during the last engagement, even if it didn't immediately result in anything. They got rid of their mist, though, so we don't have to workshop that right now. The only concern for Mitrelli is where does the engage happen?
I mean, it looks like from what I'm watching from the Titans, SOT just keeps trying to scythe Jake. You get him low enough, you get an execute on that big target. You know, big HP means the threshold's just as big. And I think that's the play for the Tartarus Titans. Try and execute these tanks. But the Bolts, they want someone to step up, someone to get waste beads one time, or that Phantom Shell one time. And that just opens up so much room for Jake. Could be an opportunity here. SOT stuck, gets the beads down. That's it. Now they get to back up. If they do, they've got a pretty decent engage on SOT next time Jake's blinks up.
Yeah, there's the conversation, right? And now if you go for the blink, he either has to ult or he's just dead. So going to be an opening, still going to be an opening depending on Baskin, ults, walls, things like that. There's going to be one onto a roar. This is usually led into a Kraken. But instead, right now, it's going to lead to a
SOT's
Phantom
up,
Shell.
and Bear's
Shots
got
in
no
the air.
jump. Oh, he's not going to do it, though.
There's no comfortable way to get in right there. Baskin looks for the stun. I like the engage, but it's just a little shy of making something happen.
They're playing 4D chess right now. Like, Jake blinks in, SOT beats. Okay, now if that's the case, then Bear's going to jump bait out. Oh, SOT almost ults in, but then Baskin's up in the sky, so he's going to stare now. Now, looks like everyone's just disengaging. A lot of stuff's been used. The main thing to remember is that SOT did not upgrade those beats. That's still 2 minutes without that cooldown. Jake's blink's going to be up in 30 seconds, and now there's no hovering death either. There's no CC immunity available. If SOT ever wants to get aggressive, it cannot be around Awesome Jake.
A lot of pressure here for the Bolts that's still being exerted. 7,000 gold has been the number, and it stayed there. You had mentioned it, but at this point, your full build, you're looking at Potions of Power. Layers just got one, and presumably drank it. An elixir over there for Lasbra.
3K, yep.
So yeah, you're definitely feeling juiced up if you're ready to go into the fight. And you can see the aura. I mean, look at it. Vin's got one. Baskin's got one. We'll see what they can get. Blink for Blink. SOT. Now a second relic on cooldown. Again, not matching it. That relic dagger working a lot for Jake here to make sure that that blink comes back up in a minute and a half. But still incredible for anybody just to stay alive. I mean, SOT is the target.
Yep.
And the fact that he has dodged out so much, enough to get his ult back, means that it's still, I mean, anyone's game, despite the goal difference, despite the disparity on the map. It's 15 to 15, and all it takes, Trelly, is just one slip up, one mistake, and this is where the strain can come into it, right? Because not only have you been playing for 42 minutes,
right,
but now you're at a very stressful moment
and
in the
you
game.
were playing the first game as well, which was
Yes,
pretty close.
right? But like now, you have to, everything you do
Right.
has to be focused. Because if you make one mistake, Barra jumps forward, Mara jumps backward, Barra jumps at all. If he's out of position, he's dead. Same thing for Vin. Out of position, dead. Things like that. It's going to be the startup for the EFG.
That
Kraken.
wall has been up for so long, that's gone.
Yeah, Kraken's available. They use it. I don't even know that they needed it. The Titans not able to get in there. That was a menacing wall from Jake. Just enough to keep people bodied away.
Yeah, I mean, they really had no way to get past the wall. They could have walked in, but they didn't have the ward vision to know. If you take a look at that EFG, there was just red wards all over, and those all belonged to the Bolts. No one else had that sort of vision. So when that wall goes up, yeah, we could all run around it, but who's waiting on the other side? Not too sure. We're not going to go in for the EFG. We've been winning decent fights at our Titan. As long as we keep that up, could be a smart opportunity here. SOT taking layer speed, that's kind of fake, but we'll let that one slide because he wants to be fast, he wants to get to the backline whenever possible. But now all the Bolts are marching in, and SOT could be in some trouble. Baskin just hammered. If he doesn't hear this out, he might have to go up with the hovering death. He might be too late though if he doesn't figure this out.
Oh, he's going to figure it out, but barely in time. The damage, the ricochet, the shots. He
didn't go back. He's going the other way.
I don't mind this, though, because if anything, all he's doing right now is creating space, right? This is the competitive name for it. You're going to die. There's no way out of that one. 70 seconds in the penalty box. You're gone for what could be the rest of this game. But you took the Bolts away from the Phoenix. You've made that space for your team. Let's see what they can do with it.
Yeah, I expected the land into Blink, but I see the Blink
They do
closing
have
up.
to back to
And
make
now
sure this happens.
Paul's running it up mid. It looks like they're just going to give this Phoenix up for sure. The defend the Titan call seems to be what the Tartarus Titans have made. This is EFG 44 minutes in. That Titan does not live a Kraken combo like that. This Titan will get melted if they step in too far.
Yeah, essentially, you see where the stone shifts from this kind of like light brown to gray? That's where the fight has to happen. You cannot let them into the Titan room. You cannot let them choose their position. Layers stunned out, double tapped up into the air. I thought Baskin would be going. No, he doesn't have his ult just yet. for that chase down shot. Still 20 seconds on that.
Here we
Here
go.
is where Baskin's going to go up, looking for the initiation. There is a delete button on Demera. Vin is
What?
just gone, and the Titans are looking to make the defense. Their Titan is at half health, but they've found 3. They're looking for 4. Lasbra is not going to be able to
What?
escape this one. Jake is just barely able to survive, but it does not matter. The Titans make a stand. It's a triple kill for Paul, a deicide for the Titans, and a win here in game number 2 to knock down the Bolts.
I'm just going to quote Aggro, who once said this a long time ago. I don't care who you are, Paul's better. How did that just happen? That should have been the easiest end of their lives, but Paul deletes 2 before the fight even starts. Barra and Ven got killed in the same skewer. That was the same set clone that just killed them both.
Barra, go to his camera. It was really funny. The minute, they all die,
Yeah.
where we're following along with Cyclone. Barra's just giggling because it's one of those moments where it's like, what do? You played 44 minutes of almost perfect smite, right? You're in control for 44 minutes. You've got a 7,000 gold lead. You got the EFG. You took down 2 Phoenixes.
Barra's got both relics.
And you called it exactly what it is. Sometimes Paul's just better.
I mean, they just both got deleted. I imagine, because I called it before the end call even started. I said, you know what? That Titan's not going to live the Kraken combo. I'm not sure the Kraken combo got off. I think it was just Kraken, no Whirlpool, no title surge. It was just right when the Kraken was about to be casted, just set clones went, and then that was it. The carries are dead. You can't end anymore.
You see that man right there? He was just gaming, right? You
Yeah.
ask him about it, no plan, no thought, just playing
Are you
set.
gonna ask
just
him
got
about
out
it?
there.
You might
I don't know, because he might just tell me what he was doing, which was just gaming. It's the Paul thing. And it just comes down to that. I mean, when you talk about mechanically gifted players,
Yep.
Paul always falls on that list, and it's because of reasons like that. I mean, that is a 98% or maybe 97%er for the Bolts, and yet the Titans found the way.
I mean, yeah, it shouldn't have happened. I think that was just a bit of overconfidence and probably more so just, I want this game to be over.
Yeah.
We've put ourselves in winning positions so many times. We're going to all in. And I think Bear got caught in the Hoye animation because when you cast your ult, you can't really do anything for a couple seconds. And right then, he just got bursted. Couldn't do anything at that point.
Well, hey, it looks good for the Titans,
Oh,
right? They
yeah.
get themselves a 2-0, kick things off 2 games where they were behind, but they still managed to find the win. An exciting day here for day number 1, and of course here in set number 2. But that's going to do it for Trelly and I. We're going to throw it back to the desk to break it down.
Thank you so much, Gore and Trelly. Game number 2 and the set go to the Tartarus Titans. A much better start out of the Bolts this time. Not only do they get some pressure over in duo, they get some pressure in solo, which is something that Baskin really needed in game number 1 to get some help. Gets a solo kill very early on. From that point, pretty much everybody was probably thinking, all right, cool, Bolts game, this is going well. And it keeps going. It goes a little bit further and further. We're getting to these late game team fights where Bolts are still winning. They're taking these 3-for-1 or 3-for-none kinds of trades. And then, in the words of Paul, he just kind of gamed on them.
Yeah, I mean, Paul's a bad man. There's nothing really else you can say about dude's just a bad guy, because that was dirty. My heart goes out to the Olympus Bolts fans, because that is a devastating loss to be in a winning position for as long as they were, to get as many Fire Giants as they did, and still not be able to close it out because you got 5-man swamped in a fog one time, and then you get crushed on a right Phoenix Siege, you get crushed on a Titan push. Throughout the early game, though, you are right that the Olympus Bolts look a whole lot better. Specifically, Baskin got the better end of SOT. I would argue SOT stunk it up a little bit throughout the early game. Some of those Thanatos ults were not landing where you needed them to, but once he started to clean that one up, once Cyclone Spin was able to get involved, had some items under his belt, things started to look better and better for the Tartarus Titans. And it's almost reminiscent of Game 1 in that the Olympus Bolts were controlling early, but then things start to slow down, and the Tartarus Titans are able to utilize their composition very, very well. This time, the Olympus Bolts didn't slow down. The Tartarus Titans just buckled down and made sure everything went their way. And I was hanging out with Kabam watching this match, and we both simultaneously agreed it just doesn't look like Lancelot does a whole lot of damage to Titan. It's not exactly the type of situation you want a Lancelot in, but it doesn't help that Paul just eliminated 2 people before they even touched the ground.
Yeah, not a great place to be in. Turns out assassins can still do a lot of damage, at least whenever they're building, such as the way that Paul, Layers, even SOT was able to get the builds out there. Tons of damage across the board from them. A triple kill for Paul to close that game out, to end it out, hold the defense one last time, and that was the last one that they needed. And when I look at the damage charts, I was expecting something way higher than that, I'll be honest. 28,000 is still a lot of damage, but for like a 45, 50-minute game just about, I would have thought that maybe have been a little bit higher, but they don't need that much damage apparently. They just need enough to be able to kill the Olympus bolts and take game number 2.
Here's the thing about assassins, man, and this is true of junglers in general, the class. They don't have the largest damage numbers at the end of the match, but we got high priority damage, all right? When the damage connects, the person's not walking away to talk about it.
Well, one person that we do have at least standing by to talk to the Tartarus Titans, it's
Well,
Goremizer
Subway.
standing by for our post-game interview.
Yeah, that's right. I've got Sot standing here. Of course, the team is deep in discussion for some post-game stuff. I wanted to come to you first, mainly because you got to solo against Baskin. I know you're not only solo against him, you solo killed him at one point playing against him. You had tweeted about it going against one of the greats. So just kind of want to know what your thoughts were on the matchup.
Oh, it was fun. I always love playing versus Baskin. I think Baskin's probably been probably overall the toughest solo laner. And of the entire time I've been playing Smite to lane verse, like historically pretty much. He always just plays the lane pretty well. He's always on top of his farm game, so it's always like a challenge to farm. It's pretty much it's like the benchmark to kind of to try and strive for. I feel like.
I really want to dive into game number 2, but I have to talk about game number 1 first just because it feels like it makes a lot of sense. Actually, similar game 1 and game 2, right? Like you guys kind of fell a little behind. In game 1, it was nowhere near as bad as it got in game 2. But, in game 1, you guys make a big play around the Fire Giant. Going into game 2, you go back to the triple assassin. What was like the mindset between games to kind of keep that going?
I don't know. We were just kind of picking what we thought was good. We didn't really have some like grand plan for drafting. I mean, game 2, I just wanted to smite net it up. I've been playing. I've been a Thanatos one trick. If you've seen on my stream at twitch.tv/solo0troll, I've been playing a lot of Thanatos there, pretty much every day. So I got pented with it in scrims, so I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna pull it out. Did absolutely nothing. Definitely, it's a 50-50 pick. It's either you do nothing or you pentakill them. So in that game, I did nothing. So it's funny. It's ironic because the fight that we won at the very end, I was dead. So I mean, it seems if I'm not there, my team wins. So
There was a point, Trelly actually, first off, I feel like needs to be mentioned, did mention that you were playing Thanatos solo recently on a ranked game of his, but you absolutely entered your brains out. So that was the conversation for the beginning of that cast, if you happen to listen back to it. And I guess, from your perspective, like you said, you were dead for it. What turned that last fight around, right? Like, I mean, you got to kind of watch it. It looked like, from our perspective, it was just that guy, right? Paul just happens to find 2 kills in the back line. He's just gaming the way he does. It's a huge Susanoo.
yeah, I think it was just the 5-man Terrell into like 5-man or 4-man Susanoo into Skewer. He put the bolts on a kebab and straight skewed them up. That's pretty much it, honestly. I mean, they didn't even need me. I'm detrimental, I'm pretty sure. So I'm a hindrance. So I think, honestly, I think I carried them, actually, because I wasn't there. So, that's the only reason why they won, is because I wasn't there. So.
They had to use everything on you to get the kills to begin with, so it was clean for the rest of the team at that point. That's going to be at least the story we tell everybody. Congratulations, man. It was a good 2-0 victory. Honestly, kind of surprised me. I was certain we were going to game number 3 there about 40 minutes into that one. So a nice surprise for us here, but congratulations on the win. Enjoy the rest of the day. We'll kick it back to the desk.
Thank you so much, Goremizer, for that post-game interview. A lot of fun talking with SOT in that one. Dead for the entire fight. I got to watch it from the POV. The rest of the team just kind of carried the end of that fight and ended up winning the game out there. I like the point they said, yeah, I got pented by in a scrim. Surely it can't be that bad of a pick, and then proceeds to not really do a whole lot with it. But sometimes that's just the case with gods like Thanatos or picks in general. Sometimes that make their way over to the solo lane can be that feast or famine. This time, it's the rest of the Tartarus Titans that are able to feast during that game and bring themselves to the 2-0 victory. And we can take a look at our schedule for the remainder of our weekend. This is week number 1 of Phase 3. Day 1 is done. Oni Warriors find a 2-0 against the Atlantis Leviathans. The Tartarus Titans find themselves with a 2-0 over the Olympus Bolts. 2 very long games between these 2 teams, but it's the Titans who come out on top. Starting off our Saturday, J Dragons, the Phase 2 Masters champions, will be making their return up against the Solar Scares, who have had some roster adjustments of their own. First, right at the end of Phase number 2, by taking Sam for Soccer to the jungle. Now Yarkor replacing Inbound over in that support role, so we'll get a fresh look at the new Solar Scarabs, and the Camelot Kings and the Valhalla Valkyries will be our second set of tomorrow, Mifflin.
Yeah, no roster changes in that one, so maybe not a whole lot of spice, but if you're trying to keep up with storylines and interesting, I suppose, milestones for some of these teams, the Jade Dragons, I believe, are on an 8-win streak right now. This would be the 9th up against the Solar Scarabs, starting to slowly approach that NRG benchmark that we've had set for, what is it now, like 3-4 years they've had that?
Forever.
Yeah, NRG's had
Since,
the
like,
win streak
season
for a while.
3?
Yeah,
Something
Jade Dragons
like that?
wants it. I think they want it real bad.
Jade Dragons won it. We've had the Kings have come close to it. The Bolts have come close. I think the Titans have also hit it at one point.
Bolts tied it.
I think Bolts have gotten there twice almost.
Yeah,
Very
I
close
think
to
they
that
tied
point.
it once and then fell one short of tying it.
Something like that. These teams are trying to be able to take that title away from NRG. It's a tough title to get to, and it's really a tough benchmark they even set at that point there. Also, other storylines, if we want to dial back into phase number 2, we did have a win from the Valhalla Valkyries over the Camelot Kings at one point, so some spice in the air maybe to at least be had in that second set, Mifflin.
Yeah, I sat down with the Kings recently, and they said, "Look, we don't get nervous at all for any of these matchups, except for the bottom-seeded teams." Twig said to me, "I get worried for the Solar Scarabs, and I get worried for the Valkyries, and that's it." Well, they're matched up against the Valks, so maybe we get a shaky Kings, a Valkyries with something to prove, a little chip on the shoulder. I'm excited for that one.
Because a lot of times when you see some of these top teams, you know what they're always going to do. You know what they're going to bring out. You never know what the bottom teams can bring. The good thing is we get to see what those teams are made of tomorrow. So make sure you're tuning in once again, 1 p.m. EST. We'll see you right back here for more SMITE Sports.